hospital. Drug mules later passed the bullets, which are wrapped in plastic. Authorities suspect that the suspect is not working alone. The National Police spokesperson Athlenda Mate says the suspect is spending some time in hospital until all the drugs pass through her body.
So we will be taking her in between hospitals just to get her an x-ray, check on whether all the drugs have been ejected out of her system. I can confirm that she's already released more than 20 to 30, between 20 and 30 bullets of this cocaine. So we're not sure how many more she has.
ANC Veterans League President Snuki Zikalala says recommitting to the fight against corruption is one of the ways of protecting the legacy of struggle veteran Pravin Gordhan. The former cabinet minister was cremated on Thursday last week after a special official funeral, Category 2, at the Chief Albert Luthuli International Convention Centre in Durban. Gordhan died in a Johannesburg hospital earlier this month at the age of 75 after a battle with cancer. Zikalala was speaking at Gordhan's commemoration service the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation organized at the Johannesburg City Hall yesterday.
We'll be rolling out a mass political program of the ANC across the country, but that will only happen after the NEC has adopted this program. We believe it's renewal or death. We believe that if we don't renew the African National Congress, the ANC will perish. The ANC is running out of time. In our base document on renewal, we argue that the ANC is facing an existential crisis characterized by rampant corruption, resource-inspired factionalism, careerism, and money politics. Comrade PG despised and fought against this most heroically and consistently in the form of state capture.
And finally, President Cyril Ramaphosa has called on the United Nations member states to forge a global consensus on how to implement the newly adopted Pact for the Future. The pact was adopted at the Summit of the Future at the UN headquarters in New York yesterday. The pact, which includes a global digital compact and a declaration for future generations, seeks to reshape multilateral institutions to respond to challenges, including sustainable development goals. Ramaphosa is leading the South African delegation to the 79th session of the UN General Assembly in New York.
This pact must bridge the developmental divide. It must provide practical solutions to the challenges of today and tomorrow. The Pact for the Future is a great opportunity to change and also to reinvigorate the multilateral system so that it is fit for purpose to address the challenges that the world faces.
Recapping the top story, the death toll following the inclement weather conditions in KwaZulu-Natal is reported to have risen to 2. However, the provincial authorities are yet to confirm the second death. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
And all clear this morning on the N3 between Joburg and Durban. There are some roadworks at Van Rynen's Pass. They continue, so a little bit of a delay just getting through there. And there may just be some extra truck volume this morning that was held over from the closure and prevented from moving through on the weekend. The big backlogs got through, but there may just be some extra traffic. So you've got some roadworks at Van Rynen's, roadworks around Escort. Just both of those a little bit slow, but nothing too desperate. Looking okay across Gauteng, some of those busy routes that form up this time of morning just are there. The mic one looks good through Boysons up towards Parktown, and you can see a lighter traffic morning this morning as well in Cape Town. N2 in from Khayelitsha through to Hospital Bend, N1 in from Brackenfell, Belleville, all clear, light volumes. With the traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's rugby. The Springboks stunned over the weekend and they lose their top ranking to Ireland. We also have news from cricket where the South Africans, guided by Aiden Markram and Tristan Stubbs, they have a 7-wicket victory over Afghanistan. Details around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Monday, the 23rd of September 2024 has dawned and it's upon us. Good morning, South Africa. This is the morning brief on SAFM. All the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today. We've carefully curated it all and packaged it for you. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your Monday edition of the morning brief. Well, coming up over the next 3 hours on the show, it hit us like something of a bolt out of the blue, didn't it? Or should we make that a blizzard out of the blue? A destructive and fatal snowstorm in late September in South Africa. Well, until the past weekend, not many would have expected or planned for it. In fact, if you read up about South Africa from all the international tourist websites, they tell you one thing. There's a reason we are called sunny South Africa. The expectation is that around September, the temperatures range between 10 and 24 degrees Celsius. So sunny South Africa. But in the wake of the storm that happened over the past weekend, it left thousands of people stranded on the N3 toll road between Harrismith in particular, Harrismith in the Free State and the Tugela toll plaza in KwaZulu-Natal. And at least one person has been confirmed dead, to have died from hypothermia. I've seen some reports that also report that a second person has died, but we'll have to wait for official confirmation of the second death. So naturally, we'll have a big focus on that story on this show, throughout this show, and in fact, you can weigh in on that. In fact, we'll do that particularly after 7 a.m., where we'll be seeking answers, in particular about disaster preparedness. When you were sitting where you were, either if you were caught up in the storm on the N3 or anywhere else, because, the focus was on the N3, but there were other roads as well that feed into the N3 that connect the various provinces, the Free State and KwaZulu-Natal, where people were caught and stuck in the snow. Share your experiences with us. Did you get a sense that there was disaster preparedness, given that the warnings about a snowstorm were given as early as, I would say, from doing the weather here on this show, probably about Tuesday of last week, we started talking about a snowstorm. Were the authorities caught unawares, or did you see a plan that says they were prepared? Among the conversations we will have about that on the show, we will be speaking to the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Velenkosini Hlabisa, after 7 a.m. Of course, disaster management falls within his ambit. So we'll also have a story in this hour for which we have to give credit to the Sunday Times and their reporting. It's a story about trade unions, particularly one trade union in the city of Johannesburg, the South African Municipal Workers Union. Unions are meant to be looking out for and fighting for the rights and the best interests of their members at all times. So naturally, it's concerning when a powerful trade union and its leaders are accused of not only promoting a microloan company whose hefty repayments have left many of the union members in financial dire straits, but also of giving the same company permission to deduct loan repayments from workers' salaries. So that is the allegation and accusation against the South African Municipal Workers Union. In fact, the Sunday Times telling us that up to 7,000 Johannesburg municipal workers are said to be under debt review now. And part of the contributory factors is this arrangement between SAMU and this company called Shosholoza Finance. We'll speak to the union in question just before 7 a.m. Of course, we have all of your regulars here on the morning brief, and Musa with your news updates every half hour, Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so, Zai Khan will be watching your sport throughout the morning, and Ndauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. Sipho Mantula in the second hour with the Africa update just before 8 a.m. Of course, we're taking your calls throughout the show. The number to dial for that is 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes to 061 410 4107. The Monday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
When self-made billionaire Wilton Knight rescues police detective Lieutenant Michael Long after a near-fatal shot to the face, he gives him a new identity and a new name, Michael Knight. Paired with the unique Knight Industries 2000 aka kit, they are brought in during situations where direct action might provide the only feasible solution. Kusazo Shuba and Michael Knight and Kit are ready to rise to the occasion. Channel your best retro with Knight Rider. Weekdays at 12 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Durban's vast and warm ocean is our gold mine. Join us as we dive into the blue economy extravaganza, unlocking new opportunities and fostering sustainable growth during Blue Economy Week from the 24th to the 28th of September 2024 along the beachfront. Experience a display of exciting maritime activities from a variety of aquatic sports, groundbreaking maritime discussions and career opportunities, innovation programs, spectacular fashion, and much more. Don't miss this incredible event. Durban's Blue Economy, shaping our future. Visit Durban and explore the endless wave of tranquility. For more information, log on to www.durban.gov.za or any @eThekwini platforms.
Hey, you know, Ntwana, if I could, I'd fly to Dubai.
Here we go again.
First class, Exeni. Get myself a V12 Beast and a mansion with Instagram-worthy views.
You don't even have Instagram.
Imagine seeing the city skyline from my bedroom, watching MasterChef SA while I have my very own MasterChef in my kitchen. Forget the queues at the cinema. I'd have one in my crib, Joe. I'm talking 7.1 surround sound and a 120-inch 8K TV whilst I'm sipping on some grapes. I'm talking luxury, Ntwana. What do you know about that? Let me school you, bro. Tune into Dubai, Buying the Dream, Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. on S3 and channel your inner luxury. Only on S3. Open up.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
Yeah, let's turn to Ann Musa for that. And Ann, good morning to you. I hope you had a great weekend.
Good morning, Tulas. I'm well. Weekend very chilly.
Yeah.
Very, very chilly.
You keep warm. You didn't travel. You were not on the N3, were you?
Fortunately not.
Yeah, I was meant to be, but I just couldn't.
I feel for those who were trapped,
Yeah.
I'm sure not a great experience.
Absolutely. What do we have on the diary? I imagine that story and its aftermath continues to dominate.
Very true. So we will be looking at the situation on the N3 after the severe snowfalls in KwaZulu-Natal and the Free State that we know caused major traffic disruptions. Hundreds of road users were stranded, some for almost 2 days between Tugela Plaza and Harry Smith. The death toll following the inclement weather conditions confirmed as at one, currently still waiting for confirmation about a second death that has been reported. So also looking at how livestock, was affected and the cars that were abandoned on the roads, finding out if all cars have been cleared. In other stories, the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation held a memorial service for the late former Minister Pravin Gordhan. So we're looking at the outcomes there. His former political colleagues hailing him as a hero who took on and fought corruption head-on. The ANC Veterans League president, saying the party's renewal and the fight against corruption are the best ways to protect the legacy of the late struggle veteran. Today, the South African Revenue Service will be holding a memorial service, and that as well to pay tribute to the life and legacy of the former SARS Commissioner Pravin Gordhan. Legal expert weighs in on the upcoming vote of no confidence against the Tshwane Mayor Silas Brink, as the Tshwane Metro Council is scheduled to vote on Thursday on a motion of no confidence, where the ANC has tabled this motion of no confidence against Brink, and he has actually described the potential coalition shake-up as a disruption to the progress made by the city of Tshwane. Bold One South Africa leader Thulasizwe Simelane and member of the Gauteng legislature Yanda Ali expected to address the media today alongside small business owners and township entrepreneurs in Katlehong, as well as a number of fire incidents reported over the weekend. We look at fire incidents across the province of Gauteng. The Gauteng Department of Health on Saturday swiftly responded to a fire disaster in the Cemetery View informal settlement that's east of Pretoria. After reports of a fire there was received, over 800 shacks were destroyed, leaving approximately over 2,000 residents. And a fire also gutted a tire manufacturing factory in Industria. So just some of the stories that we will be looking at, but mostly focusing on the situation, weather conditions in KwaZulu-Natal and all other provinces affected.
All right, thank you for that. And Musa watching all things for you in the news, and we'll give you updates every half hour throughout the morning here on The Morning Brief.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let's turn our attention now to the weather. The weather has been making news the last few days, so let's go through it once again on this Monday morning and see whether we are getting out of the woods, as it were, over the last few hours since the snowstorm that disrupted so much of South Africa over the weekend. We'll start with some warnings. There's an impact-based warning, and it says that a yellow level 1 warning for winds is expected, winds that are expected over the northern parts of the Northern Cape, increasing the risk of rapid fire spreading and blowing loose debris. There's also a fire danger warning. It says that extremely high fire danger conditions are expected over the central and eastern parts of the Northern Cape and the western parts of the Northwest. The rest of your weather then looks like this. Pretoria is partly cloudy with a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 23. The expected UVB sunburn index in Pretoria is high. Johannesburg is partly cloudy with a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 20. Mbombela is cloudy, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with a minimum of 9 and a maximum of 20. Polokwane is cloudy, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with a minimum of 9 and a maximum of 20. Mahikeng is partly cloudy and windy, becoming fine in the afternoon with a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 24. Bloemfontein is fine and windy, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with a minimum of 9 and a maximum of 23. Kimberley is fine and windy, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with isolated evening showers and thunder showers, 10 to 27. Cape Town is fine with the wind being light to moderate southerly to southeasterly, becoming northerly to northwesterly in the evening. It's a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 29, and the expected UVB sunburn index in Cape Town is high. George is fine, becoming partly cloudy with isolated evening showers and thunder showers. The wind is light and variable, becoming moderate easterly to southeasterly in the evening. It's a minimum of 9 and a maximum of 23. Gqeberha is fine, becoming partly cloudy with isolated evening showers and thunder showers. The wind is moderate to fresh northeasterly, reaching strong from the afternoon. It's a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 25 in Gqeberha. East London is fine, becoming partly cloudy with isolated evening thunder showers. The wind in East London is moderate to fresh northeasterly, reaching strong from the afternoon with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 25. Durban is partly cloudy. The wind is fresh to strong northeasterly with a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 22. The expected UVB sunburn index in Durban is low. Pietermaritzburg will see morning fog patches. Otherwise, it's partly cloudy with a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 22.
Ask me how I know that 50% of car claims are pre-approved instantly. That's because I was one of them.
Yeah, they got my car back on the road with the first repair.
I submitted my claim on the ANG app. I didn't even have to call.
Auto & General is proud to be recognised as South Africa's best car insurer by Forbes and The Star for short-term insurance. Isn't it time you switch to award-winning cover? Visit autogen.co.za. Auto & General. Never not there. A&G is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said...
There is a place
where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
Standard Bank Group, the biggest bank in Africa by assets, in partnership with SOAS, will host the 4th Annual Climate Summit on 1 October. This summit will host insightful discussions with various industry experts in charting Africa's course to net zero. The annual summit is one of Standard Bank's sustainability initiatives dedicated to driving growth on the African continent. Tune in to the SAFM Facebook page and be part of the conversation in shaping the future of Africa's energy transition. Brought to you by Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking.
Channel Heritage Day your way on Afternoon Express on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. only on S3. As Chef Ruben Riffel braais lekker curried lamb skewers, we rock our traditional regalia, and Jules Harding of Good Luck celebrates her daughter Skylar's first Heritage Day, and it's orange malva pudding for dessert. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
So there's going to be a great deal of focus on the United Nations General Assembly this week. And President Cyril Ramaphosa has arrived in New York leading South Africa's delegation. It's the 79th session of the UN General Debate and the high-level week, of course, and it's known as UNGA 79. And that's happening in New York in the United States between the 21st and the 24th of September. Already some activity happening in New York with the adoption by UN member states of what is known as a Pact for the Future, as the UN General Assembly's flagship summit of the future kicked off in New York in the United States. But of course, there was a bit of diplomatic pulling back and forth. Russia sought to block the adoption of the consensus-driven pact that includes a digital compact and a declaration on future generations that seeks to reshape multilateral institutions to better respond to the complex challenges facing the international community. But those efforts were thwarted because it was then put to a vote, and Russia's objections were rejected by the General Assembly that took a vote to take no action on Moscow's amendment to block the adoption. And that allowed the Assembly to proceed with the consensus adoption of the Pact of the Future. All right, let's unpack what is going to unfold this week. I'm joined now by Roland Ngam, who is a Senior Project Manager at the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation. Good morning to you, Roland, and I thank you for your time. So just how important a week does this remain in the bigger scheme of things in international diplomatic relations, the UN General Assembly and its week of focus, as well as what's playing out now, the Summit of the Future?
Good morning to you and good morning to all the listeners. This is the Climate Week, as it is labeled. Despite all the cynicism, multilateral processes are still very important. They have an important role to play. And so this week there is going to be a lot of focus really on many of the decisions that have been taken, for example, to phase out fossils, but which has not happened. There is going to be sustained effort on powering climate objectives and trying to get countries to meet their objectives, and also to power the sustainable development goals so that people have more access to food, electricity, water, education, and so on.
Yeah, and I know that the Sustainable Development Goals are, varied in terms of what they target to address as problems facing the world in the 21st century. But if you talk to those that talk to sustainability, particularly environmental sustainability, what is your sense of progress there? Would we say that there's, the political will is there and it's demonstrated both in countries in the Northern Hemisphere as well as countries in the Southern Hemisphere? And is it backed up by investment towards achieving these SDGs?
Well, like I signaled at the beginning of my statement, there is a lot of cynicism, and the reason very clearly is because countries are not meeting their objectives. The Global North, for example, promised to give 100 billion every year for adaptation and mitigation, and obviously that has not happened. Obviously, you remember that in Egypt, they developed the Loss and Damage Fund, and in Dubai, that was basically translated into pledges. Again, that has not happened. A decision was made to phase out fossils, but as we know, fossil fuels are increasing. The US has become more or less the biggest producer of shale gas, the biggest exporter of gas and oil. And so this is why many countries are really very cynical. And this is also why the JET-P project is really derided in South Africa, because people are asking themselves, why are you in the Global North continuing to pump fossils, which pump so much CO2 into the atmosphere, and forcing us, the countries that have very little to do with the problem, to make most of the effort?
That regression in as far as phasing out fossil fuels and decarbonizing economies, that regression that you talk about, and it's been widely reported, including in parts of Europe, what effect do you think it will have on countries that initially were quite enthusiastic about the just energy transition, countries such as South Africa, when you are committing and recommitting, but that's not reciprocated by your partners in the developed world? What does it do to that commitment? Does it lead to a situation where countries treat these commitments as, a nice to have and optional, not a priority?
Well, number one, you are very correct in referencing nice to haves, because you see a lot of greenwashing now. So many companies claiming that they are green, whereas they are not. Secondly, there is going to be a lot of anger and backlash, and you've seen the anger against things like electric cars and so on. And also the anger against the Just Energy Transition Partnership in South Africa, where so many people are angry at President Ramaphosa for pushing the installation of rooftop solar and other solar and wind projects. Number three, once again, it is the Global South that is doing most of the hard work, and really the problem is created in the Global North. And also the next point is that these countries, as a solution, need to start pushing more for reparations, because the problem really in the main has been created by the Global North. There is a lot of cynicism, but multilateral processes need to be encouraged, and we need to keep with them. We need to keep at it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. That's Roland Ngam, who is a senior project manager at the Rosa Luxemburg Foundation, weighing in on the week ahead at the UN General Assembly, particularly focusing on sustainability and the strategic development goals, the SDGs, which will be in focus during UNGA in New York. And that brings us to 29 minutes to 7. Let's check in with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the KwaZulu-Natal Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Department has warned that although the N3 has been reopened, the driving conditions remain dangerous. Authorities in the province are yet to confirm reports that the death toll has risen to 2 following the inclement weather in the province. The ANC's Veterans League President Snuki Zikalala says recommitting to the fight against corruption is one of the ways of protecting the legacy of struggle veteran Praveen Gordhan. And Sri Lanka's president-elect is expected to be sworn in shortly in the country's executive capital, Colombo. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Pretty easy Monday morning, as you might expect, between a weekend and a public holiday. Some of the routes that normally jam around Gauteng highways nice and early just simply aren't there. The Mike 1 is clear. Boyson through the Parktown, the N3, Germiston up to Galooly is clear. Normally you're sitting in some very heavy traffic. Looking okay between Pretoria and Joburg as well. No major incidents. Stationary truck coming out of Pietermaritzburg at Linfield Park is being cleared. There is a report of some mist this morning between Pietermaritzburg and Key Ridge. Drive carefully. Also an early morning crash on the Mike 1 Richmond Road, pretty much in the central Marion Hill area. If you're driving from Chatsworth, Klaarwater, on your way to Pinetown, there is quite a backlog of traffic. A vehicle overturning at Marion Hill this morning on that section of the Richmond Road. Cape Town looking pretty decent as well. The N1 inbound coming through from Belleville, clear. The N2 inbound again, just lighter volumes this morning as you make your way from the airport and coming in from Khayelitsha through to central Cape Town. Just a heads up, if you are travelling up the west coast area, the R27 remains closed. You'll be diverted off at Vredenburg into Vredenburg and then up to Veldrift on the local alternatives. Vice versa, if you're driving south from Veldrift, it's an emergency set of roadworks that need to be conducted on that 27, and that's why it remains closed. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning, Zai. How was your weekend?
Oh, it was a one-point weekend where I felt like it could have gone either way from me, and then the box sealed it.
Yeah,
I know.
It was a difficult weekend. We started the weekend at number one in terms of rugby rankings, and something happened over the weekend, and we're no longer number one.
That 1 point felt like a sucker punch. Yo, Thulas. I mean, but you know what? The Boks thrive under pressure.
Yeah.
So I'm already looking ahead to Mbombela. So I'm hoping that that's going to be electric, and I hope that the comeback story will be even greater.
Right.
So
not the one we saw in Argentina. Yeah.
I hope the Hollywood script writers are going to be jealous come the weekend. But listen, let's reflect on this for a moment. We had an early 17 lead. That's the Boks, and they let the match slip through their fingers in the second half. Final score 29-28 was our defeat to Argentina in Santiago. The defeat means Ireland now claim the number one position with everything to play in the return match at Mbombela. The Boks need a strong comeback to secure their first rugby championship title since 2019. Here's Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus on that match over the weekend.
Missed kick at the end. We could have had smiles here, but it wasn't down. If we did many other things better, it wouldn't have come down to 1 point, one kick. So overall, there's not obviously the kicking we have to work on, but then there were our lineup didn't function really well today, and Argentina was very clever in how they made the game very loose, which is well done by them.
Some cricket news. Aiden Markram and Tristan Stubbs guided South Africa to a consolation 7-wicket victory. This after a much improved bowling and fielding performance, which saw Afghanistan dismissed for just 169 after choosing to bat first in the third and final one-day international against South Africa at the Sharjah Cricket Stadium yesterday. South Africa finished on 170 for 3 in 33 overs to concede the series 2-1. Soccer, SABC Sport has learned that Hollywood Bet Super League side TS Galaxy Queens have been found guilty of failing to secure a venue and causing the abandonment of a match, including failing to attend a match by a SAFA DC hearing. The Mpumalanga outfit was fined 10,000 Rand each for each match and ordered to pay the costs of the 2 DC hearings. Now, the Rockets entered into a plea and sanction agreement, giving them a lesser charge, and will now replay the games rather than lose all 6 points. Elsewhere, soccer action, John Stones scored a 98th minute equaliser. Manchester City denying 10-man Arsenal a win with a 2-2 draw at the Etihad, while Brighton and Nottingham Forest played to a 2-2 draw as well. Formula One and the title contender Lando Norris led from pole to the checkered flag to win the Singapore Grand Prix yesterday, narrowing the gap to championship leader Max Verstappen, who was second. It was the McLaren driver's third career GP win and his first from pole at his 6th attempt. Teammate Oscar Piastri was third to extend their lead over Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. Here's the race winner, Lando Norris.
I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was just I started catching a few of the back markers and a bit of a gust of wind. I've hit a bump a little bit wrong and it's really caught me out quite weirdly. So, yeah, I mean, I took it much easier in the second stint. I didn't need to push anymore. So, the car was good. The car was great in the first half. But, I mean, I feel like it's also a track where you have to manage the tyres well. You have to not make mistakes. It's kind of it's a track who can push it up to the walls more consistently and more often. And I feel like that's what I did today. So, it's been an amazing weekend. So, very, very happy to end it off like this.
We'll bring you more sport at the top of the hour on the Morning Brief. I'm Zai Khan.
There's sponsoring a news feature. Then there's helping your clients make the news. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking to see how far they can take your business.
The Business Update on SAFM.
All right, let's check in with Ndauling Lechela for that. And Ndauling, firstly, did you have a good weekend?
I did, but it was just so cold.
It was, eh? It was safe. You know, safety was the number one priority. Just survive the weekend, because I was meant to go to KwaZulu-Natal, but ended up not being able to do that.
Oh, I can imagine the roads were crazy.
Yeah. All right, let's talk. The chip makers are courting one another, are they?
Well, it seems like M&A activity is heating up in the chip industry. According to sources, Qualcomm has submitted a takeover bid for Intel. The Wall Street Journal was first to report on the matter. Now, if the deal were to go through, it would be one of the largest mergers in the tech sector. And many say Intel seems ripe for a takeover, as it's been in a downward spiral that accelerated this year. The stock had its biggest one-day drop in over 50 years last month, after the company reported disappointing earnings. Intel shares are down 53% this year as investors express doubts about the company's costly plans to manufacture and design chips. Now, Qualcomm and Intel compete in several markets, including the PC and laptop chips. But Qualcomm, unlike Intel, doesn't manufacture its own chips and instead relies on firms such as TSMC and Samsung to handle production. There has been concerns around the financing of the deal and questions like how Qualcomm, which is worth $188 billion, would pay for Intel, valued at $122 billion. Now, when looking at Qualcomm's financials, the firm only has $13 billion in cash. There are also concerns about regulations. A Qualcomm-Intel merger would likely face intense antitrust review in the US, China, and Europe. And to secure approvals, Qualcomm may need to offload certain Intel businesses.
Chiseline alert for you, Ndauling.
Yes.
Nike has decided, just do it. Just do it. It being a leadership shakeup.
So Nike has made changes at the helm. Company CEO John Donahoe seems like he's not doing it for Nike anymore, as he'll be stepping down and being replaced by veteran Elliot Hill. Now, Donahoe will retire next month after nearly 5 years of leadership, and Hill will succeed him as CEO from the 14th of October. Donahoe will continue to serve as an advisor until the end of January. Now, the shakeup in leadership comes as Nike struggles to deliver growth in sales. In its last reporting period, the group warned of a 10% decline in sales, citing soft demand in China and uneven consumer trends across the globe. The outlook was far worse than expected, as analysts had warned of a 3.2% decrease. Under Donahoe's leadership, Nike's direct-to-consumer strategy appeared successful during the pandemic, with online sales surging. But as lockdowns ended, the company's decision to cut ties with wholesale partners created an opportunity for competitors to gain market share and secure retail space, directly impacting Nike's sales growth and resulting in broader restructuring efforts. Despite Donahoe's plans to cut costs, it seemed like shareholders had already lost confidence in him, with many analysts warning of his resignation. Following last week's announcement, Nike's share price surged, hitting its best level this year. This signals some confidence in Hill's appointment. Senior research analyst at Jane Halley and Associates, Jessica Ramirez, said Hill's appointment is a positive for Nike because of his history with the company and his deep understanding of the company's culture.
All right, let's set the stage then for the week ahead in as far as the markets are concerned by reflecting on Asian markets, the US, as well as the JSE, how it closed on Friday.
So yes, recapping on those markets and how they ended last week, U.S. stocks closed mixed with most indexes in the red. Investors were cheering a soft landing scenario after the Fed's big rate cut, but they are still keeping their guard up for a downturn. Here at home, we also had a mixed finish with markets awaiting fresh catalyst to drive equities. The all-share closing just above the flat line, up 0.08%. The rand, in the meantime, kicking the week off on a high. We're still seeing strength on that end, with the rand trading at 17.40 to the dollar. Over in Asia, markets extending gains this morning, building on last week's rally following a slew of monetary policy moves. Traders on that end are now focusing on US PCE data, which will be released this Friday.
All right, I've got to thank you for that. For now, that's Ntauleng Lechela. She's back with you in the second hour, just after 7:30, with more news on the economy front, business, as well as the markets for you.
There's listening to the news. Then there's making the news. Grow your business into the next big thing with Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. When you choose Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking, you get access to our business solar loans. Accessing our business solar loans means you get connected to the right supplier for your business and the most feasible tailor-made financing solution. And that financing solution means 8,760 hours of uninterrupted power for your business, sourced directly from the African sun. You see, there's going green. Then there's going green with us. Search Standard Bank Business and Commercial Banking. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Good morning, Thulas. Mqethe speaking here in Kala, Eastern Cape. Thulasizwe, my take in this morning is on our parliament. Do you think the South Africans will ever trust our laws made by the parliament? I ask this because in parliament there are people like Suprama Homapilo, Koko, Togoza Didiza, and the rest who are the suspects in the state capture, who appear in the Zondo Commission, but they are in parliament, and Abomani, Zwanelemani, who are making the laws for us. How can those people be there and make the laws for the South Africans? For example, where are the PRASAs today? That is the railways, the SAA, the post and telecommunication. Thanks to us, Mqethe.
Ask me how I know that 50% of car claims are pre-approved instantly. That's because I was one of them.
Yeah, they got my car back on the road with the first repair.
I submitted my claim on the ANG app. I didn't even have to call.
Auto & General is proud to be recognised as South Africa's best car insurer by Forbes and The Star for short-term insurance. Isn't it time you switch to award-winning cover? Visit autogen.co.za. Auto & General, never not there. A&G is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The students are summoned for an assignment to establish who will achieve a distinction of 3 points. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Who will conquer the varsity derby? Catch the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. University of Port Hare Ladies FC versus UJ Ladies FC on Sunday 29 September at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Here's what real clients say about OutSurance. Here's Fundi, 46 from Brackenfell.
They give me lesser amount for my car. 523 rand on my 2013 Hyundai iX35.
Monica, 39 from Three Rivers, pays just 1,515 rand a month for her 2018 BMW 320i.
Give OutSurance a call. You can't lose.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. OutSurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
At 14 minutes to 7, let's focus on this story now. Last week, a bankruptcy filing in the United States that many would have thought impossible happened, but its ripple effects were arguably felt more here at home than many other parts of the world. Tupperware filed for what is called in the United States Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceedings, citing the severe impact of a challenging macroeconomic environment as the reason for its difficult financial position. The reason South Africans were left reeling, of course, is that Tupperware, the Tupperware brand, has over the decades been much loved by South Africans and woven into the fabric of our society, with many carrying enduring memories of it. Its bankruptcy filing has shown the spotlight on distressed companies, including those that operate here at home. Just 2 weeks ago, the South African Post Office's business rescue practitioners warned that it needs a 3.8 billion rand cash injection from the National Treasury, or else it faces liquidation, a fate already faced by no less than 892 companies and closed corporations just this year alone. Joining me is Gareth Creeman, who is a partner specializing in business restructuring, business rescue, and insolvencies at Cox Yates Attorneys. Good morning to you, Gareth. I've got to thank you for your time. So, to the extent that you understand the U.S. system and how it works, how does a Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceeding compare to our laws in as far as insolvency is concerned? My understanding is that the Chapter 11 is not a liquidation as such, but it sort of gives flexibility for restructuring of debt.
Good morning, yes. So the Chapter 11 in the US is similar to our provision of business rescue, not the same because they're very much a court-driven process in the United States. From what we understand is that there is a push to move it from a Chapter 11 into a Chapter 7, which is the liquidation of Tupperware in the US. The lenders are pushing rather for a Chapter 7 position over there. So we do need to look at what the ripple effect is, and in terms of the shareholding on how it flows back into Tupperware, South Africa. From a business rescue perspective, remember, business rescue is designed as a temporary moratorium to give companies a breathing space and basically keeps all of the litigation at bay and all enforcement actions against it. And business rescue, unlike a liquidation, is supposed to result in a better return for creditors than an immediate liquidation. And that's generally the test that has to be applied throughout the business rescue process. In other words, will there be a better return for creditors through the business rescue and what the business rescue plan provides for in comparison to a liquidation?
So if we have that sort of buffer between, where the company is financially and a liquidation, and we have business rescue in the South African context, is it serving the purpose that it's meant to serve? And if so, why do we have 892 companies already this year that have, been liquidated this year alone?
So when you get to some companies in that, statistics unfortunately don't give you all of the underlying information which you need. So, when you say that 892 have been liquidated this year alone, some of them don't get liquidated immediately. Sometimes it takes 2 years, 3 years, sometimes 6 months in the making. And the problem is that from a South African perspective, a lot of companies are usually too late on the scenes for a possible turnaround or a restructuring because they don't approach and don't consider business rescue, at the appropriate time. They generally arrive as a dead on arrival position. And that's why business rescue seemingly has not taken off well in this country. The prospects of recovery from a business rescue are always a great rescue, provided you use a good business rescue practitioner. I know we have about 228 registered practitioners, but the reality of it, when it comes down to it, you only have a handful of practitioners that truly have the skill sets available to either turn around a company or to put it back into a better position instead of a liquidation. And there's not many on that. There is a shortage of skills on that front.
Is there enough of an understanding then of the activism of other stakeholders in a business, such as trade unions as well as shareholders and others, to always keep an eye on the ball, such that where the company is clearly distressed and perhaps the decision is not being taken by those who control and run it to place it under business rescue, you are there as the activist stakeholders to ensure that that step is taken to give it a fighting chance at least?
So remember, under Chapter 6 of the Companies Act, we have various provisions available. It recognizes trade unions, employees, shareholders, and creditors, and it gives them the power to bring applications to put a company into business rescue if it is financially distressed. And there is an obligation on them. So to the extent that it has been utilised, some of the unions historically have brought business rescue applications. One matter in particular was a well-known, well-publicised case, was the case of NUM versus Wilrose Supplies. And over there, the union put a company into business rescue when the company was trying to do a retrenchment, if I recall correctly. But there are a number of other scenarios where creditors historically have brought these applications, putting a company into business rescue. And the rationale in more instances as to why a creditor would do it is because they do not want to get caught with preferential treatment or any sort of dispositions against them if the company goes into liquidation and they have benefited. So it's also a far more see-through process and a far more transparent process as well in business rescue.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is Gareth Creeman, who is a partner specializing in business restructuring, business rescue and insolvencies at Cox Yates Attorneys.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Not a bad run through Joburg this morning. Some of those usual hotspots just simply aren't there, such as the lightness of today's traffic volumes. The N1 looks really clear coming through Midrand as well. Very open highway, although that can prove to bring its own problems as speeds increase without the traffic. So take it easy, please, this morning. Crash on the Mabopani Highway coming to Pretoria between Rossland Road and the N4. It looks like that seems probably being clear. Traffic is starting to move a little bit better there. Durban, the Richmond Road at Marion Hill, vehicle flipping over and overturning. So if you're on the run from Clavata towards Pinetown, that traffic busy recovering rather than queuing heavily as it was earlier. There is some mist around Cato Ridge, Camperdown, so south of Pietermaritzburg. Drive carefully. And Cape Town, a couple of crash scenes on what is otherwise an easy Monday. There's a truck crash on N7 Jakes Kerwell Drive, just north of the Voortrekker Road junction, so up by Milton. That's quite slow from Epping. And then further up, there's a crash on Bosmansdam Road at Summer Greens, and that's causing a delay coming up the N7 northbound from Goodwood to try and get off into that traffic on Bosmansdam Road. With the traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Okay. They actually did it. I mean, I've seen it done in other countries, but now they have a whole new local season of the show. Oh, Mzansi, you beautiful, amazing land with diverse families and cultures. Wife Swap South Africa is finally here. Tune in from Monday the 9th of September and see how families from across South Africa swap wives and learn a thing or two or three on how other families operate. There will be disruptions, lessons learned, tears, and smiles in this unique and insightful social experiment. Channel your best entertainment with Wife Swap, Mondays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3. Dawn breaks across the lush Serengeti plain, but paradise is fleeting as the animals face fresh challenges. Kali the lioness and Bakari the baboon may seem safe in their rock fortresses, but with rivals encroaching on all sides, their future hangs in the balance. Out on the plains, Duma the cheetah faces his destiny, and down by the river, baby hippo Mafuta strikes up an unlikely friendship with the crocodile Magamba. Channel your inner explorer with Serengeti, Season 3, Sundays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
Standard Bank, the biggest bank in Africa by assets, in partnership with SOAS, will host the 4th Annual Climate Summit on 1 October. This summit will host insightful discussions with various industry experts in charting Africa's course to net zero. The annual summit is one of Standard Bank's sustainability initiatives dedicated to driving growth on the African continent. Tune in on our SAFM Facebook page and be a part of the conversation in shaping the future of Africa's energy transition, brought to you by Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So I've been saying all morning that it hit us like a bolt out of the blue, or should we be saying more like a blizzard out of the blue, a destructive and fatal snowstorm in late September in South Africa. Until the past weekend, not many would have expected or planned for it. The conventional wisdom shared with international visitors the world over is that the average temperatures in South Africa at this time of the year range between 10 and 24 degrees Celsius. So are these the manifestations of climate change, or was the snowstorm something cyclical to be expected every few years? Let's unpack this with the Vaal University of Technology's Faculty of Human Sciences Acting Research Professor and Human Geographer. That's Professor Kaitano Dube. Prof, good morning. I've got to thank you for your time. Basic question that I think many South Africans are grappling with. What on earth brought this on? Why did we have a snowstorm as bad as we had in late September in South Africa?
Good morning, Tula, and good morning to your listeners, and thank you for having me. I think what we witnessed is in many respects a normal cycle. So you would recall that the snow that we experienced was a result of a cut-off law, which is actually a common feature on South Africans' weather and climate calendar. So on average, we expect that the cut-off laws, we almost have about 10. There are studies that indicate that on an average, we have about 10 cut-off laws, cut-off laws on a monthly basis. These cut-off laws, they peak around May. But if you also look at the snowfall that occurs in South Africa, our snowfall season starts around May and lasts to somewhere around September. So if you look at the climate records, this also indicates that this is a normal pattern in terms of our climatic and weather calendar. However, what could be of question is what role did climate change play? And this is a complex question given, I think, the parameters that we have discussed. And it takes a bit of time for us to try and detect what are some of the climate signals that we can pick up. But what we also know is that when we look and assess the climate drivers, we see that we are experiencing a lot of extreme weather events. And when we try to look at those extreme weather events, we are picking up a lot of extreme weather events that are attributed to climate change. And this could be one of them because what we also know is that climate change results in disturbances in terms of the climatic weather, the system that causes climate change. So the garnet is still out for us to assess and detect whether climate change played a part and to what extent climate change did play a part in this particular snowfall.
Could it be that the intensity and the destructive force of the snowstorm is where we could start looking for answers around climate change?
Yes, indeed. We then have to look at the intensity and try to compare it particularly with previous records. But if we look at the areas particularly that were affected by the snow, some of the areas that were affected by snow, it is actually quite common for those areas to be affected by snow in that particular cycle.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is Professor Kaitano Dube there, who is the Vaal University of Technology Faculty of Human Sciences Acting Research Professor and Human Geographer, weighing in on why you saw that snowstorm in the middle of September, in fact in late September in South Africa. He attributes much of it to a normal cyclical cut-off low, and that is of course an explanation from the South African Weather Services as well. Thank you so much for that. That's Professor Kaitano Dube there, bringing us to 7 a.m. Let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news.
In our top stories, road users urged to be cautious on the N3 and President Ramaphosa pays a courtesy call to Guterres. Good morning. The KwaZulu-Natal Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Department has warned that although the N3 has been reopened, the driving conditions remain very dangerous. Authorities in the province are yet to confirm reports that the death toll has risen to 2. They've confirmed 1 woman died of hypothermia. This followed severe snowfalls in KwaZulu-Natal and the Free State, which caused major traffic disruptions at the weekend. Hundreds of road users were stranded for almost 2 days between Tugela Plaza and Harry Smith. The department's MEC is Thulasizwe Simelane.
All cars have been evacuated, but there is still a problem of the trucks on the road that still need to be cleared. Many drivers abandoned the trucks, and therefore we urge people to stay away from the N3, because while the road is now open, but the cleaning up process needs to happen.
ANC Veterans League President Thulasizwe says recommitting to the fight against corruption is one of the ways of protecting the legacy of struggle veteran Pravin Gordhan. The former cabinet minister was cremated on Thursday last week after a special official funeral category 2 at the Chief Albert Luthuli International Convention Centre in Durban. Gordhan died in a Johannesburg hospital earlier this month at the age of 75 after a battle with cancer. Sikelala was speaking at Gordhan's commemoration service the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation organized at the Johannesburg City Hall yesterday.
We'll be rolling out a mass political program of the ANC across the country, but that will only happen after the NEC has adopted this program. We believe it's renewal or death. We believe that if we don't renew the African National Congress, the ANC will perish. The ANC is running out of time. In our base document on renewal, we argue that the ANC is facing an existential crisis characterized by rampant corruption, resource-inspired factionalism, careerism, and money politics. Comrade PG despised and fought against this, most heroically and consistently in the form of state capture.
25 suspects arrested in Mooinooi near Rustenburg and in Stilfontein near Klerksdorp in the northwest for involvement in illegal mining are expected to appear in 2 separate courts today. Police say the suspects were arrested during Operation Valamgoti. Some of them also face a charge of contravening the Immigration Act. Provincial Police spokesperson Adele Myberg.
In Stilfontein on Thursday, the 19th of September, police were allegedly called to a local mine shaft after mine security reported that they apprehended illegal miners on level 10. 6 illegal miners were found, and on searching the suspects, 7 pieces of amalgam were found hidden in the dreadlocks of one of the suspects. In another arrest on Friday, police were called back to the same shaft in Stilfontein, where 6 more illegal miners were found on level 14. During the search, a backpack was found with more amalgam inside.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has paid a courtesy call on United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres in New York. The two met after the opening of the Summit of the Future, which adopted a Pact of the Future. The pact seeks to reshape multilateral institutions to better respond to the complex challenges the international community is facing. The challenges include sustainable development as well as peace and security. Showan Bryce Peace reports.
Ramaphosa earlier called for the pact to be inclusive and expressed a desire for it to generate a global commitment that represents the views, concerns and interests of the Global South, with a key focus on global action in support of the African Union's Agenda 2063. Ramaphosa's Monday schedule in New York includes a roundtable on navigating a new landscape for African minerals, a meeting with the non-profit Business Council for International Understanding in relation to issues of trade and diplomacy, and a meeting with American business leaders and investors at the New York Stock Exchange, where the president is also expected to ring the closing bell after the day's trading.
And finally, Sri Lanka's president-elect is expected to be sworn in shortly in the country's executive capital, Colombo. The leftist anti-corruption candidate Anura Kumara Dissanayake swept to power on the tide of widespread popular anger at a continuing economic crisis that resulted in widespread poverty. The BBC's Samira Hussain has the details.
It's a complete shift away from the political dynasty of the Rajapaksas that have really dominated politics in this country for decades. So he really positioned himself as a candidate for change, and that really came to fruition. It was not the usual ethnic and religious tensions that brought people to vote this time around. It really had everything to do with the economy.
Recapping the top story, the KwaZulu-Natal Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Department has warned that although the N3 has been reopened, the driving conditions remain very dangerous. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
We've just got a latest look at Van Rynen's Pass, the scene of all the drama over the weekend. We just popped that up on x.com at Traffic SA. You can have a look at it. The road's open. There may be some sort of icy conditions early in the morning, but what is fascinating is just how much snow there is on the land around Van Rynen. So, yeah, great news there from the news report to proceed with care, particularly early morning while these conditions persist. But Van Rynen's all open. The N3 to Durban clear, apart from some mist around Cato Ridge Camper down this morning, so do take it easy up that way. Midrand looks good. It's an easy Monday coming out of Pretoria down to Joburg. Very light volumes, no incidents. Cape Town, not so easy on the N7. There's a crash involving a truck N7 north at 4 Trekker Road. That's a delay from Epping. And then a crash has come off the N7 at Bosmansdam Road, Summer Greens. That's heading out of Edgemead, but it means sort of a delay getting off the N7 into Bosmansdam. That section of the N7 queuing from as far back as Frans Conradi. So N7 north, 2 queues to work through. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's cricket action as the Proteas avoid a wash. Aiden Markram steers the team to victory against Afghanistan. And in rugby, Apelele Fasi says the Springboks will go back to the drawing board in preparation for an epic rematch against Argentina. Details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
8 minutes after 7 on this Monday, the 23rd of September, 2024. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. It's all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today, carefully curated and packaged for you. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and I'm here to deliver your Morning Brief. Coming up in the second hour of the show, the South African Weather Services started warning of snowfalls that could be disruptive and make for difficult driving conditions very early last week. I would know. I do the weather for you every morning here on the Morning Brief. So they did warn very early on last week. By Friday, those warnings were flashing red, figuratively speaking. And Friday morning's weather forecast, if you were listening, you will remember that I decided that let's just focus on the warnings because there were so many of them. Yet, by Friday evening and into Saturday and Sunday, no less than 1,800 vehicles were reported to be caught up in the snowstorm on the N3, with lots more stranded along other routes such as the R74 between Harrismith and Bergville, the N11 between Ladysmith and Newcastle, and many others. So there's a question there that we seek answers to in this hour, and that has to do with disaster preparedness. You saw, of course, by Saturday mid-morning, the scrambling of graders to try and remove the snow from the road and clear the N3, and people were being assisted. But was government caught unawares, or was there a disaster preparedness plan that was in place and that kicked in? Did you see it? Did you see a plan kicking in and being effective? In the next few minutes, I'll be speaking to the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, that is Velenkosini Hlabisa, who will weigh in on this issue. Towards the end of this hour, just before 8 a.m., we focus on correctional services. The Minister of Correctional Services, Peter Groenewald, is talking tough and talking about consequence management for prison officials who engage in corrupt transactions. This as the department has told Parliament that about 1,679 of its officials were suspended over the past 5 years, resulting in 586 dismissals for such infractions such as assisting inmates with smuggling, contraband, including cell phones. So that conversation coming up just before 8 a.m. Of course, we have all of your regulars again in this hour, and Musa with your news updates every half hour, Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so, Zaikan watching your sport throughout, and Ndauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. Sipho Mantula, of course, in this hour with your Africa update. Give me a call on 086 000 2032 and your WhatsApp voice notes to 061 410 4107. The second hour of the morning brief starts now.
Africa Chibembe. As trees and flowers blossom, the nation gets brighter and excited for sporting action. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport celebrates the nation's diverse culture and heritage. Happy Heritage Month. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Mzansi, what has become of our country? Gender-based violence is eating our moral fabric, and we can no longer afford to turn a blind eye. This violence affects us all, occurring in various forms including femicide, which is the intentional killing of a woman because of her gender. It takes place anywhere, anytime, even in our own safe spaces at home. Working together with social partners through the National Strategic Plan on GBVF, the government aims to create a GBVF-free South Africa. As we acknowledge the gains from our 30 years of freedom and democracy, let us also work together to break the cycle of GBVF on our home ground. Call the 24-hour GBVF Command Center number on 0800 428 428 or text *120*7867#. A message from the GCIS.
Channel Heritage Day your way on Afternoon Express on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. only on S3. As Chef Ruben Riffel braais lekker curried lamb skewers, we rock our traditional regalia, and Jules Harding of Good Luck celebrates her daughter Skylar's first Heritage Day, and it's orange malva pudding for dessert. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
So as I said, the South African Weather Services started warning of snowfalls that could be disruptive and make for difficulty in driving conditions very early last week. By Friday, those warnings were flashing red, figuratively speaking, and Friday morning's weather forecast carried with it at least 6 warnings of varying severity, with snow and its disruptive effects the common thread. Yet by Friday evening and into Saturday and Sunday, no less than 1,800 vehicles were reported to be caught up in the snowstorm on the N3, with lots more stranded along other routes such as the R74 between Harrismith and Bergville, N11 between Ladysmith and Newcastle. In the resulting chaos, if not thousands of people were stranded, some for up to 24 hours on national and regional roads that turned into wintry parking lots amid freezing temperatures and with no food, water and toilet facilities. Let's speak to the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Velenkosini Hlabisa, to talk about government's preparedness. Minister, good morning. I've got to thank you for your time. Let me take a step back and ask you to outline for us what your plans were when the South African Weather Services were warning about the severe snowstorm as early as Tuesday last week. What plans did you put in place that then you could turn to as the disaster started unfolding over the weekend?
Good morning, Sizwe, and the listeners of the radio station. As you rightly say that the warnings were made quite early. The Disaster Management Center, on behalf of the ministry, activated all provincial departments to be standby and ready for any that might be happening as per the warnings. There is one thing that we must admit: the climate change is taking a different direction. No one, including yourself, Sizwe, was expecting that the snow will be at the extent it was. And the warnings that have been given, requesting people to rather delay their trips, were not heeded too by the community. I think from a simple point of view that people did not expect that the snow can create such a terrible disturbance on our roads. And our systems were ready in terms of how to intervene. Unfortunately, when the snow started to trap people, there was a difficulty even of using the helicopters which were ready.
Yeah.
Because there was also snow and there was mist, and the helicopter from SNDF could not assist, yet they were ready, as we had prepared that in case there will be a need for evacuation, we will do so.
Sure.
I think the lesson that we learned, just to conclude, you need to develop a protocol now, because if we just simply close the roads, you will agree with me, to some it was a long weekend, people will not cooperate. We will need to develop a protocol and inform people in advance that we will give a warning that do not travel, and we will close the roads, so that people know in advance that even if you do not heed the call of the warning, but there will be no road open. But to close the road, you need to develop a protocol. You can't simply just close the road instantly without a protocol being developed.
Well,
bear in mind, this is a national road.
To your credit, as government officials, Minister, there was a warning that then said people should rather postpone their travel on the N3. But that warning came a bit too late. And this is where people are grappling with this issue to say, as I say, when I read the weather on Friday, it had 6 warnings, and each one of them talked about severe snowstorms. And we are all wondering why it is that if we picked it up, government did not pick it up such that, you know, the extensive communications channels that are there, working with service providers, cell phone service providers, sending messages. The message that says postpone your travel just didn't come in time. It came too late, for example.
Yeah, but too late, Sizwe, is better than nothing, really. We must admit that all sectors did not estimate the extent of the snow, because it's something that has not hit us the way it did before. And we learned a good lesson that any warning and alert, and we are going to develop a protocol, as I'm saying. This one thing we concluded yesterday evening when we were making our final evaluation, that going forward, there must be a protocol that must be established and communicated, that when the warning is at this level, we must communicate that not necessarily people must delay their traveling, but roads will be closed. And if you did protocol early, you won't experience confrontation. Even over the weekend, there were some drivers who were refusing to cooperate with our traffic officials and made things even difficult more.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights this morning. That is the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Velenkosini Hlabisa, there, weighing in on the government preparedness and the lessons that have been learned about how to deal with situations such as these, and also emphasizing that no one really expected the extent and the severity of the snowfall, and therefore a protocol needs to be developed, he says, around road closures when you anticipate that this could turn into a disaster situation. You need a protocol that says, how do you close the road and ensure that people don't end up in a spot of bother, as many did over the weekend.
Africa Chipembe. As trees and flowers blossom, the nation gets brighter and excited for sporting action. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. SABC Sport celebrates the nation's diverse culture and heritage. Happy Heritage Month. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So let's continue our focus then on the snowstorm that played out over the weekend. Well, it also led to the temporary closure of the Sunny Pass, Busman's Neck, and I can't believe I'm saying this word, in 2024, and Mononcha ports of entry. The Border Management Agency Commissioner Michael Masiapato says the decision was taken as a precaution in the wake of road conditions leading to ports of entry becoming risky amid the snowfall. Joining me now is Murdoch Ramatuba, who is from the Border Management Agency, to talk to us about the closure of the various ports of entry. Good morning to you, Murdoch. So 3 ports of entry were closed. Just give me the thinking behind closing them. At what point did you decide that this was the prudent course of action?
Good morning to you and the listeners. Yes, we did not open those ports for operations as you have listed them. That was just for it's a precautionary measure for safety, considering that with the snowfall, the roads were not usable. However, as you have said, we got them opened yesterday, except one port, which is Sunny Pass, because its condition was still bad for use. Inspection that was done last night did show that it was not safe. However, we are planning to open it today from instead of the normal working hours. It will open from 8 until around 3 in the afternoon, so that it is used while we still have light for better visibility.
When you say its condition was not good for use, what does that mean?
With the snowfall, it makes the roads to be slippery. So the likelihood is that people can, vehicles may bump each other or maybe even slip off the road and cause a fatal accident for those that are using the road.
Yeah. And what was the impact of the road closures in terms of traffic on all approaches to these ports of entry and exit?
Yeah, obviously it does affect movement of people and goods that were meant to move through those ports of entry. We have, however, given a guidance to users that they may use other ports of entry in the vicinity into Lesotho, which of course it comes with additional financial burden to the users.
Yeah. So lastly, then just to confirm, Murdoch, the Sunny Pass port of entry border gate closed for now, will open at 8, but will close at 3 p.m. such that operations are while there's still daylight.
Yes, my colleagues are now at the port trying to make assessments to ensure that the port can be used if indeed it's as safe as we thought it will be, then they will get it open for use.
And Busman Snack must go in 2024, surely, as a name.
I heard you say that. And,
all right, let's leave it there. That is Murdoch Ramatuba, who is from the Border Management Agency there, talking to us about the closure of the 3 ports of entry and exit over the weekend due to the snowstorm.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
All right, let's bring into the conversation now the KwaZulu-Natal Cooperative Governance MEC, that is Reverend Thulasizwe Buthelezi. Good morning to you, Reverend. I've got to thank you for your time. Just talk to me, the same question that I asked the Minister earlier on. What plans did you have in place that evidenced that you heard the same warnings that we all heard from the weather services about severe snowstorms that could lead to difficult driving conditions? Tell me extensively as you can what plans you put in place that people could see as the disaster began to unfold.
Well, good morning, Thulasizwe and all the listeners of SAFM. I think it is clear now that we need, going into the future, a more coordinated approach as government, because on the N3, you have an entity called the N3 Toll Concession Company that is in charge together with SANRAL. Along the way, you have municipalities, you also have the provincial government and the national government. It is clear we need a more centralized and coordinated approach going forward, because the type of disaster that befell us as the province of KwaZulu-Natal is unprecedented. And therefore, in terms of communication and in terms of coordination, I think we need to be more responsive, more innovative now going forward.
Is this an acknowledgement on your part that you were not, to quote you, as coordinated as you should have been, and you did not communicate as you should have? That coordination between the various spheres of government and the entities could have been better to avert some of the sins we saw?
Well, we did communicate to Thulasizwe because the warnings from the South African Weather Service were very clear. And some people did heed those warnings. But what is clear is that government should have acted earlier to close the road. But no one could have predicted the extent of the snow and the extent of the damage which was going to happen. But it is clear now that we have learned lessons coming out of this very tragic and uncomfortable episode where people were stuck on the road, some for more than 2 days with little children and no food and water. I think it's a wake-up call to us as government, and surely as the provincial government, we will be leading the way now to ensure that we coordinate all future responses for such a catastrophe.
I appreciate your candor, MSC, but here's my difficulty. Why is this the wake-up call? Why were the floods of a few years ago in KwaZulu-Natal not the wake-up call? Why was there no follow-through? And I know this is part of a conversation that should happen with the national government as well. When the conversation was about you have disasters that are like COVID, which the law was not really suited for, and they were building the plane as they were flying it in as far as the management of that disaster. Why have all these wake-up calls not been heeded? Each time it happens, we say it was unprecedented, it's a wake-up call. It's just a different type of disaster, but it's not that we've not seen disasters of this magnitude, surely.
Well, it drives home the point of the impact of climate change, and that climate change really has become a reality to us. And in our planning and in our budgeting, we now need to factor that in. Earlier on we had the fires in KwaZulu-Natal throughout the province. we could not contain those because they arrived at a time of the year when we are not expecting fires. Then we had the floods, now we had the snow. In this time of the year, we are expecting rain and not snow, which you would rather expect in winter.
Yeah.
So the impact of climate change is such that it's forcing us now to really go back to the drawing board and look at innovative ways using technology and create early warning systems that really would be enforced so that people do not find themselves stuck on the highway as they were this weekend.
All right, I've got to thank you for that. And just before you go, I wonder, MEC, if you are able to confirm for us, we've seen reports that say that a second person has died of hypothermia from being stuck in the snow over the weekend. If you are in a position to confirm it, we'd appreciate it.
No, we cannot confirm that. Our information tells us that it is one person who passed away because of hypothermia.
All right, I understand that. Thank you so much. That is the MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in KwaZulu-Natal, MEC, the Reverend Thulasizwe Simelane. Brings us to 29 minutes to 8. Let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, authorities in KwaZulu-Natal are still trying to clear trucks that drivers abandoned on the N3 when the route was closed due to inclement weather conditions. 25 suspects arrested in Mooinooi near Rustenburg and in Stilfontein near Klerksdorp in the northwest for involvement in illegal mining are expected to appear in 2 separate courts today. And President Cyril Ramaphosa has paid a courtesy call on United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres in New York. The two met after the opening of the Summit of the Future, which adopted a Pact of the Future. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's a pretty easy Monday, as we've been reminding you, with just a couple of exceptions. One of those is Durban, the N2 running south. That's quite slow this morning between the Mgeta Road and Spaghetti Junction. Also, a delay as you come off the M4 onto the Esplanade, Victoria Embankment into the city centre, looking a bit sluggish as well. And a bit of mist around Cato Ridge and Camperdown to watch for south of Pietermaritzburg. Joburg looks good, Pretoria looking good as well. No major problems this morning in the traffic. It's all flowing along quite nicely, especially the highways, very light volumes. Cape Town, anything but an easy Monday, particularly from the N7. There's a truck crash at 4 Trekker Road. That's your first delay coming up into Goodwood. And then a stationary truck in the middle of the N7 before Bosman's Dam Road. And that's causing a really big delay from Goodwood up towards that sort of Edgemead exit, up towards the N1 and up towards the Summer Greens and Montague Gardens area. N7 North leaving Goodwood, very heavy. And also a little crash on the N2 inbound around the Unsmarts Drive. Just watch for some slowing traffic as you arrive in passing the Langa side. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
You know how South Africans use at least? At least like fun, you know? It's not so bad. At least Nyana, there was a consolation out in Sharjah.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
It's like deja vu.
Yeah.
At least.
At least.
You know, it's a consolation.
Not too bad.
Not too bad. We found the piece of the puzzle we've been hunting for. Aiden Markram and Tristan Stubbs guiding Team Protea to a consolation 7-wicket victory over Pakistan. And this after a much improved bowling and fielding performance. They dismissed Afghanistan for just 169 after choosing to bat first in the third and final one-day international against South Africa. All happened at the Sharjah Cricket Stadium. Now, the Proteas finished on 170 for 3 in 33 overs to concede the series 2-1. Rugby, Apelele Fasi says the Springboks will go back to the drawing board in preparation for an epic rematch against Argentina to decide the 2024 Rugby Championship title race. South Africa's narrow 29-28 defeat in Santiago del Estero on Saturday has set up a thrilling decider next week in Mbombela. The loss has not only delayed Rassie Erasmus Chargers from claiming their first Rugby Championship title since 2019, but also dropped to second place on the global rankings. More rugby news. The 2024-25 URC will kick off for South African teams this week. The Bulls, Lions, Sharks and Stormers delayed their opening matches due to the Currie Cup final, but all eyes are on the overseas challenges this weekend. Going into round 2 of the URC, the Lions, they are first up next Saturday. They tackle Ulster in Johannesburg. The Bulls will host Edinburgh at Loftus Versfeld before the Sharks. They'll cross swords with Connacht in Galway, and the Stormers bringing the curtain down against the Welsh outfit, the Ospreys. Formula One title contender Lando Norris led from pole to checkered flag, winning the Singapore Grand Prix, narrowing the gap to championship leader Max Verstappen, who was second. It was the McLaren driver's third career GP win and his first from pole at his 6th attempt. Teammate Oscar Piastri was third to extend their lead over Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. MotoGP, Enea Bastianini has won the Emilia-Romagna GP in Misano. The Italian driver took a controversial win after clashing with Jorge Martin in the last lap. The second place was enough for the Spaniard to extend his lead as Ducati's Francesco Bagnaia crashed out on lap 21. Marc Marquez completed the podium, finishing 3 seconds behind Martin. Cycling, Remco Evenepoel successfully defended the World Time Trial in Zurich, surviving a lost chain on the starter's ramp that blew his concentration. True triumph ahead of Italian pair Filippo Ganna in second and Edoardo Affini in third. And finally, some tennis news. The 4-time Grand Slam champion Carlos Alcaraz beat Taylor Fritz 6-2, 7-5 as Team Europe rallied to beat Team World 13-11 and win the Laver Cup. And that's how we wrap it up on your sport on the morning brief. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
All right, let's go to Ndauling. Ndauling, good morning to you once again. So you've got some company news, and I see that Investec is optimistic about its prospects after posting first half earnings in line with guidance.
That's right, Silas. Now, Investec has noted an improved operating environment in both the markets it operates in, that being South Africa and the UK. Both regions had been facing some challenges. The group said there's been an uptick in business post-elections in both the SA and the UK, and it's also optimistic on the back of those recent rate cuts, saying it will provide its customers with much needed relief. In a trading update, the niche private banking and wealth management group said it expects half-year earnings to rise by as much as 4%. Zooming in on those different units in South Africa, it's pegging in a profit jump of at least 15%. The group says there's growing interest in South Africa as an investment destination. The CEO of its South African business, Kumesh Mudlia, said local companies are attracting international investors, a significant shift from 6 months ago when securing foreign investment was nearly impossible. It's noted this shift as its engagement with international banks on the local landscape increases. In the UK, Investec expects earnings to rise between 5 and 11%. CEO of that unit, Ruth Lees, says this is due to a rebound in UK and European merger and acquisition activity, which took off towards the group's year-end period.
And staying with company news, Ndauling, I must say I don't know who Happy Pay is. You tell me it's a fintech company, fintech player, and they've secured a 30 million rand in funding.
So Happy Pay is a fintech player that operates in the buy now and pay later space. Its competition are the likes of PayFlex and Pay Just Now, and the funding will be used to boost those operations. Last week, it confirmed it received just over 30 million rand in pre-seed funding. Now, pre-seed funding is the earliest stage of startup funding being given before a company has fully developed its product or service. This initial investment helps entrepreneurs turn their ideas into a reality. Now, Happy Pay has received backing from a group of venture capital investors co-led by Aisha Pando's E4E Africa and 4Die Capital, with participation from local and international venture capital firms, as well as a handful of local angel investors. The funding, of course, as mentioned, will be used to scale up its operations. HappyPay currently has 150,000 active users and competes with the likes of PayFlex and PayJust now. Now, Buy Now and Pay Later has gained popularity in recent years amid high living costs and tight credit requirements. Buy Now, Pay Later options are gaining traction, particularly in South Africa. This payment method also supports e-commerce growth while offering consumers interest-free and deposit-free flexibility. And this market is expected to grow even further. According to a report by Research and Markets, BNPL payment adoption is expected to grow 16.7% to reach $717 million this year alone.
What is it? BNPL, Buy Now, Pay Later.
Yes.
Okay. Lastly, Dowling, just a recap on Asian markets, the U.S. futures, as well as the JSE and the Rand.
Now, kicking things off in Asia, most stocks are in the green amid persistent cheer over lower interest rates. In China, the central bank cut a short-term lending rate this morning, further boosting stocks on that end. They saw the Shanghai index rise by 0.66%. Japan's Nikkei, however, leading the gains there, up 1.5%. Over in the U.S., Wall Street futures are in positive territory, making gains after ending mostly in the red last week. Back at home, markets ending last week's trade in mixed territory, with the all shade just above the flat line, rising 0.08%. The Rand, in the meantime, trading stronger on the back of a weaker dollar. It's sitting at 17.39 to the greenback, stronger from the 17.40 it was trading at about an hour ago.
All right, I've got to thank you for that. We'll talk a bit later. That's Ntaoleng Lechela. She will have one more update for you of business and economics news, as well as the markets ahead of the opening of the JSE. And that update, you can look forward to it. She will come through with it just after 8:30 here on the Morning Brief.
Africa Update on SAFM.
For that, let's turn to Advocate Sipho Mantula. And good morning to you, Raz, and I hope you had a great weekend.
Refreshing morning to us indeed, and Jumbo Africa to the listeners.
Thank you. So Tunisia is our focus. It's the cradle of the Arab Spring revolutions of 2011. It's now going to elections in October, but it seems there's a bit of discontent that's playing out there.
Absolutely, Tulas. You'll understand that it's 14 days towards Tunisian elections, and what is coming out is that there have been numerous protests, and the one of yesterday was around a bill that came before Parliament that has to strip one of the courts to now adjudicate electoral disputes. So others are saying that it seems that one of the candidates, President Said, is trying to use judiciary and the law to can be able to cheat during those election pullers on the 6th of October next month. So you can see that there's tensions around how the people on the ground, they feel authoritarian rule that come from President Kais Saied. And as we know, Tunisia is one of the countries, as we said, 2011, we saw the beginning of the Arab Spring.
Yeah, in fact, I was hearing about concerns about a return to authoritarianism in Tunisia. Talk to me about Kenya and its mission in Haiti, as some say. The president of Kenya has visited that mission and has ambitions for it to be clothed formally in the United Nations GABs.
No. Even correctly, you'll understand that mission was set up last year, October 2023. It was a multinational security support. It is not a peacekeeping mission, if you understand international law deeply. So you need to convert it to become a UN peacekeeping mission, resource it, because the gangsters have been ravaging Haiti. You have 700,000 people who have left their homes. You have barbecue, Gabriel, who are busy going around. But Kenya, since they have been the first African troops to be there to last. At the same time, they've got their own domestic challenges, but the UN have to come to the party. Hence, by the end of this month, there have to be a 15-member council vote of the UN in terms of the mandate renewal of this mission in Haiti. So the hustler, William Ruto, was in Haiti this weekend.
Yeah. And in Gabon, I see that Ali Bongo Ondimba has been speaking to the nation and showing contrition, is he?
No, definitely. But remember that the Gabon, it is this dynasty of the name of the father, the son, the uncle, the cousin, Thulasizwe. And when you understand that, now what you are having is that you have the son, the wife who have been arrested since last year. So he's trying to have others are saying a way out to say, I'm pulling out of politics. Can we have the national dialogue and move on? And that's what he's having now, as one will say that the challenges of Gabon has been, since last year, we know how he went on to say he was removed unceremonially, unlawfully, but it was his cousin, by the way. Hence, I use that notion of the father, the son, and the cousin to last. It's important in African presidencies, to those who have been long into power, that they've been using that.
Speaking of dynasties, I see that you have another story now that has to do with the name of the father and the son, but this time around in Uganda. What this young man was planning to challenge M7.
Remember, Uma 7, I used to call him Uma 7 or Museveni.
Yes.
General Museveni's son, Muhusino, has been very troublesome to us. He's been not going on the Twitter straight saying, I'll contest the presidency. Now, over this weekend, he said, no, let's support my father now. And remember, his father has been in power for 38 years. Now, Muhusi is saying, no, we are now going to support my father in the upcoming elections. Remember, he also threatened Kenya in 2022 that he will invade Kenya. And that's how this young man has been now grounded. I would say he's going under rehab through his father's guidance, but he normally frequents something as I've heard to us.
Yeah, I wonder how that would have been an interesting race had he continued and proceeded. So lastly, Sipho, this is an interesting bit of history in your historical archives, and it has to do with the history of Soweto, Orlando, as well as the team Orlando Pirates. The reason why they are called as Gamakepula, as Akepula Umhlaba Kamaspala. This is 23 September 1970. What happened?
Wow, that's quite true, Tula. Sofasonke James Mbanza passed on at his home in Orlando East. As you have said, this was one of the political activists, the founder of Sofasonke Party. A man who was born in Mpumalanga, by the way, Tula, but moving to Orlando, and as you have said, being one of the person who formed the Orlando Boys Club before it was renamed Orlando Pirates, asking for Orlando Stadium to be built. But also, I say, even Soweto is southwestern townships. It's nameless. There's no name. Orlando was also a name of a colonial master. So he wanted to change the names, this elder, as we know him. And finally, I think he was one person who pushed traditional courts in Orlando during that time, what we call the parents' court that came from Sofasonke Mbanza. To us, on the eve of Heritage Day, we'll talk about Unga. I didn't want to touch Unga for now because I still try to get an African link and a connection. How do we see 79 Unga in New York, or in just tourism by our ministers and presidents?
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Well, we are presiding this time around, Sipho, so that's one angle. Let's see how we preside
Cameroon,
over. Yeah, Cameroon, absolutely. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update, just giving you a flavor of some of the big stories dominating the news and developments around the African continent.
For 18 years, Kumbulekaya has been fostering healing through forgiveness and reconciliation.
Are you asking me that? Yes. I grew up without a mom.
So what happened to your family?
What family? You are my family. What happened to you?
Witness as families forgive one another and reunite after a long time. Catch the new season of Kumbulekaya on SABC1 every Wednesday at 9 p.m.
Kickstart your journey to success in 2025 with the Durban University of Technology. DUT offers programs in the faculties of Accounting and Informatics, Applied Sciences, Arts and Design, Engineering and the Built Environment, Health Sciences and Management Sciences, open for applications for 2025. Applications close on 30th September 2024, but dates may vary. Visit dut.ac.za for a full list of available programs and entry requirements. Apply now through the Central Applications Office by visiting cao.ac.za.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter.
This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It is a very easy Monday morning across the country. All those sort of normal hotspots that you sit in Monday to Friday just aren't there today. We're squeezed between a weekend and a public holiday, and there's a lot of volume out of the mix. Also, school holidays underway as well. There is one little hold up on Joburg's N12 onto the N3 coming out of Alberton up to Germiston. A crash at Eland's interchange. If you're coming from Trekker Road, that's just a little bit slow. Durban's N2 South has a breakdown before the Spaghetti Junction. That's why you're sitting in some quite heavy traffic on the N2 running south through Umgeta Road down in towards 4 level. That is busy. Bit of traffic on the exit from the M4 onto Victoria Embankment onto the Esplanade as well today. And then Cape Town, there's a big backlog. Well, it was earlier. It's cleared. I'm just refreshing my system. It was a stationary truck on the N7 north at Bosman's Down. That backed everything up to Goodwood, but that has been cleared. And the N7 looks great as you move from Epping through Goodwood and on your way towards the Edgemead area. Looking okay as well. Should be a fairly light day in terms of long distance travel. It will be busy tomorrow as a lot of motorists come back, particularly in the afternoon. And if you're planning on coming back into Cape Town from the Southern Cape area, there's roadworks between Caledon and Bot River. They normally cause delays, but with sort of long weekend volumes tomorrow afternoon, watch for some delays there. And then you'll probably just hit that usual sort of returning long weekend traffic, Hohook pass through to Crabo. So the earlier you get back into Cape Town on the N2, the easier the traffic conditions will be during tomorrow afternoon. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The world's best cooking show is finally here. MasterChef South Africa Season 5. You'll meet 20 talented home cooks from around Mzansi, noma uphumaphi, and no matter your favorite dish. See if the chefs can handle the heat in the kitchen in a race to be crowned MasterChef South Africa. Every Saturday, 7:30 p.m. only on S3 Channel 193. MasterChef South Africa, the world's best cooking show, proudly sponsored by Pick n Pay.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said, "Grrr."
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, "Baye."
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
20 outfits of the Premier League are back on the battlefield for another spectacular season, with ambitions to play the world's most competitive and compelling football.
Rodri! City 3! West Ham 1!
This is the massive fight for the ultimate glory.
I say no, is he going to try and beat him from inside his own arm? Oh, boys, it's Caicedo! I can't believe it! What a way to score your first Chelsea goal!
Experience the 2024-2025 Premier League season on Saturdays at 3:30 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
To this story now, for which we need to give full credit to the reporting of the Sunday Times. Trade unions are meant to look out for, fight for, protect and promote their members' best interests at all time, not only against employers but against any social and political forces that may threaten their rights. So it's naturally concerning when a powerful trade union and its leaders are accused of not only promoting a microloan company whose hefty repayments have left many of the union's members in financial dire straits, but of also giving the same company permission to deduct loan repayments from workers' salaries. And that's exactly the allegation the trade union SAMU's Johannesburg chapter faces. The Sunday Times reporting yesterday that about 7,000 Johannesburg municipal workers who are said to be under debt review are citing hefty loan repayment deductions by the company Shosholoza Finance as the reason. Joining me now is Lebogang Ndawo, who is SAMU's Deputy Regional Chairperson in Johannesburg. Good morning to you, Lebogang, and I've got to thank you for your time. What is your relationship with this company as SAMU? What is your relationship with Shosholoza Finance, and why are they making these deductions out of your members' salaries?
Good morning, Mr. Simelane, and good morning to all your listeners. The relationship with Shosholoza, it's the same relationship that SAMU has with with other financial service providers. It's the same relationship SAMU has with insurance companies. There's nothing special with the relationship with Shosholoza. It's just a scheme that is afforded to members of SAMU, that if there is a need for a loan, they can use those service providers. That's the only relationship that they have. Even with your insurance companies, it's a scheme that says if you want a funeral cover, you can go to any of them, your Old Mutual, then Old Mutual will then deduct from payroll. That's the simplest explanation I can give.
So it would be as innocuous as you say, Lebogang, if it wasn't for the fact that we know now that the practices of this company are questionable, not only in terms of their criteria for providing these loans, but as we've seen from the reporting of the Sunday Times, their collection methods also being called into question. So while you're saying that it's your relationship is just like any other relationship with other service providers, that you say that to your members, this is available if you need it. In this instance, it would seem the service provider actually is not working in the best interests of your members.
We would not want to necessarily conclude on the article. What the article alleges, most of the issues there are factually incorrect.
Okay.
They sensationalize the numbers. For example, they are saying in the article about 7,000 employees are on debt cancelling. I can bet you my last cent that number is incorrect. Members.
Do you know that for a fact, Lebogang, or are you saying you can bet me? Bet me is one thing. Knowing it for a fact is a different thing. If you are countering the allegation, I would say you need to counter it with a fact.
Yeah, let me get to that point. The effect is that there is a certain company called Zinhle that created the impression to workers that they are under debt review. That company is a debt counselor. But then became aware to SAMU around December when 600 members left SAMU or resigned from SAMU. Supposedly, when we inquired where the resignation forms were not there. And then upon investigation, we then discovered that that company actually submitted Form 17.1 and Form 17.2 to the city of Johannesburg. Those forms are nothing else than just communicate between a debt counselor to a credit provider and the client. It's forms that are between, but they said to the city, those are court orders. As a result, as we speak, a number of people have been removed from that company because that company was deducting money but not paying creditors. So that's why I'm saying that 700 number, it includes those cases. So it cannot be accurate. It's not, the reporter did not do due diligence in terms of verifying those numbers.
But are they inaccurate then when they say that you have entered into an agreement with Shosholoza Finance, granting it access to the city's payroll and giving the company permission to deduct loan repayments from workers' salaries? And the impact of that, Lebogang, if I need to re-emphasize for you, is what those workers that are cited that are then caught in that debt spiral and are repaying for up to 2, 3, or 4 years at a go. So you would understand why that would be problematic.
Again, let's read properly the subheading of that article. It says we have given Shosholoza access to the payroll. SAMU does not even have access to the payroll. SAMU has initiated the process where there's payroll deductions. Those two things are totally different.
Sure.
City of Johannesburg, they would have been committing the serious crime if they were to give any person access to their payroll. So unless the city, because I saw that the city manager was interviewed apparently, maybe the city manager knows what they are talking about. But as far as we know, no one has access to the city's
I get
payroll.
what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but let me just say how I rationalized it in my head, and I had the same question you have. In my head, I said perhaps the suggestion is that you used the same system to authorize your members' subscription deductions from payroll and clothed these deductions by this company as being part of member subscription deductions. Did you do that or did you not do that?
SAMU has agreement with a number of service providers, including Shosholos. All of them, I'll repeat again, all of them are deducting from payroll. They submit a file to payroll pays.
Okay.
And that is a mandate given by employees who went to service providers and acquired loans.
Yeah.
Or they've acquired the services maybe for a funeral cover. That's what is happening.
All right.
Yes.
All right, I've got to leave it there. I'm out of time. That is Lebohang Ndawo, who is the SAMU Deputy Regional Chairperson in Johannesburg, weighing in on a story reported by the Sunday Times yesterday. Bringing us to 8 a.m., let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news. Essential Cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, clean-up operations ongoing on the N3 and elderly man to appear in court for allegedly running over a 6-year-old. Good morning. Authorities in KwaZulu-Natal are still trying to clear trucks that drivers abandoned on the N3 when the route was closed due to inclement weather conditions. The KwaZulu-Natal Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Department has advised motorists to use alternative routes as clean-up operations get underway on the N3. Severe snowfalls in KwaZulu-Natal and the Free State caused major traffic disruptions at the weekend. Hundreds of road users were stranded for almost 2 days between Tugela Plaza and Harry Smith. The department's MEC, Thulasizwe Simelane, has this message for motorists.
On the N3, between Van Rienen's Pass, all the way through to Montrose, up to the Moy River Plaza, all cars have been evacuated, but there is still a problem of the trucks on the road that still need to be cleared. Therefore, we urge people to stay away from the N3, because while the road is now open, but the cleaning up process needs to happen, the driving conditions are still very dangerous.
25 suspects arrested in Mooinooi near Rustenburg and in Stilfontein near Klerksdorp in the northwest for involvement in illegal mining are expected to appear in 2 separate courts today. Police say the suspects were arrested during Operation Valamgodi. Some of them also face a charge of contravening the Immigration Act. Provincial Police spokesperson Adele Myburg.
In Stilfontein on Thursday, the 19th of September, police were allegedly called to a local mine shaft after mine security reported that they apprehended illegal miners on level 10. 6 illegal miners were found, and on searching the suspects, 7 pieces of amalgam were found hidden in the dreadlocks of one of the suspects. In another arrest on Friday, police were called back to the same shaft in Stilfontein, where 6 more illegal miners were found on level 14. During the search, a backpack was found with more amalgam inside.
A 70-year-old man is expected to appear in court today after being arrested at the weekend in Lutzville in the Western Cape for allegedly running over a 6-year-old boy. Police spokesperson Malcolm Poyer says the suspect drove straight towards the boy and his mother when they were walking in the area. The boy, who sustained wounds to both legs, was taken to hospital. Police are investigating a case of attempted murder and negligent driving case. President Cyril Ramaphosa has paid a courtesy call on the United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres in New York. The two met after the opening of the Summit of the Future, which adopted a Pact of the Future. The pact seeks to reshape multilateral institutions to better respond to the complex challenges the international community is facing. The challenges include sustainable development as well as peace and security. Sharon Bryce-Peace reports.
Ramaphosa earlier called for the pact to be inclusive and expressed a desire for it to generate a global commitment that represents the views, concerns and interests of the Global South, with a key focus on global action in support of the African Union's Agenda 2063. Ramaphosa's Monday schedule in New York includes a roundtable on navigating a new landscape for African minerals, a meeting with the non-profit Business Council for International Understanding in relation to issues of trade and diplomacy, and a meeting with American business leaders and investors at the New York Stock Exchange, where the president is also expected to ring the closing bell after the day's trading.
And finally, Ecuador has started to implement power cuts one day earlier than planned due to a severe drought affecting its hydroelectric plant. The country is experiencing its worst drought in 60 years. The BBC's Leonardo Rocha reports.
Ecuador's government had already announced overnight power cuts across the country from Monday. But because of the severity of the crisis, it cut electricity this weekend in 12 provinces from 8 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon as well. The authorities say they're considering further cuts in other emergency measures. In the capital, Quito, 60 neighborhoods have had their water supply suspended. Several other countries in South America are suffering the impact of the worst drought in living memory, which has devastated vast areas of the Amazon and the Pantanal in Brazil, Bolivia and Peru.
Recapping the top story, authorities in KwaZulu-Natal are still trying to clear trucks that drivers abandoned on the N3 when the route was closed due to inclement weather conditions. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187. Want to know how a 35-year-old man pays only 489 rand a month for his 2005 Ford Ranger 2500 TD Super Cab and gets paid cash so he can choose his own panel beater after an accident? Switch to Outsurance Essential today and get the cover you need. Outsurance Essential is priced for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 125,000 rand. It's time to switch and save. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
No discernible backlog on the N3 between Harry Smith and Van Rynen's Pass. That road that was closed has been open since last night, and traffic is largely flowing through, even through Van Rynen's and through the roadworks area, still moving nicely. Maybe a little bit of mist just south of Pietermaritzburg on your way through to Durban to watch for this morning. In Durban, there's probably one of the biggest delays that we've got around the country this morning. It's the N2 running south into a breakdown at Spaghetti Junction. So from Umgeni Road, all of a sudden across all lanes, it all gets a bit slow on that run down towards that Clarewood Mall area, or Clare Road Bridge, I should say. It's a Clare Road Bridge area. Cape Town, the N7 dramas at Goodwood and up at Bosworth Dam, that's all being cleared up. Looks good through there now. We are just getting some first reports through of a little bit of community action. This is largely over the cost of electricity in the Retreat and Grassy Park area. The community there have been on this for about a month or so, but they are back this morning with placards around the M5, Prince George Drive, Joe Marks Boulevard, so sort of Lavender Hill, Steenberg side. In the past, we have seen a closure as the protests come onto the M5, so just a heads up to be aware of that in that area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. It is rugby. The Springboks are seeking redemption in a grand rugby showdown come this weekend. And soccer, where Manchester City's late drama denies Arsenal victory. Details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8 on this Monday, the 23rd of September 2024. Good morning, South Africa. This is the Morning Brief on SAFM. It's all the local and international news, current affairs, insights and opinions you need to lead the conversation today, carefully curated and packaged for you. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and I'm here to deliver your morning brief. Well, we've had a number of conversations on the go over the last 2 hours, and the main focus, I would say, has been around the aftermath of the destructive and deadly snowstorm that took place over the weekend, and the disaster that was unfolding when people were stuck on the roads, particularly the N3 and other regional roads between the Free State and KwaZulu-Natal. We heard from the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa. He was talking about the wetlands that were activated, and the provincial departments activated their plans and were on standby, but acknowledging that no one was expecting that amount of snow to fall, and therefore the systems, there needs to be systems on how to intervene earlier, such as the road closures, where you say to people, please postpone your travel to KwaZulu-Natal because snow is going to fall and it's going to be very dangerous for you. And some people not wanting to be stopped. He was making the point that there needs to be a way in which decisions such as closing roads can be made a bit quicker. Of course, the debate is whether or not the Disaster Management Act and the regulations that can be and are made in terms of that act, whether those are adequate for disasters that occur almost instantaneously, where you need to react and react immediately. And that conversation is on the go. That was also the input from the MEC in KwaZulu-Natal, that is Thulasizwe Buthelezi, who also said there needs to be some kind of a protocol on how you go about taking precautions against such occurrences as we saw over the weekend. So we are into the third hour now, and we are on standby to speak to the N3 Toll Concession Authority. They'll be talking to me in the next few minutes. Of course, we have all of your regulars, and Musa with your news updates every half hour, Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so, Zai Khan watching your sport throughout the morning, and Dauleng Lichela has your economics, business and market news covered. Do give me a call. I understand that I've not taken as many of them as I should have, and I will in this hour. The number is 086 000 2032, as well as your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. The third hour of the morning brief starts now.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. The top 6 contestants tackle a classic bake that's enjoyed all over the world, the humble pie. After learning the art of making pastry from scratch, they each prepare their own family-style pie filled with their favorite flavors. That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Real savings, real benefits. Here's what real clients say about OUTsurance.
My name is Alan. I'm 71 years of age and I live in Douglasdale. I'm paying 554 Rand a month for my 2022 Nissan Magnite.
Want a car insurance premium that'll blow your mind? SMS out to 30754 now for a quote. It's quick, it's easy, and it could save you hundreds of rands every month. Here's Amy.
To anyone who has not reached out to OUTsurance, what are you doing? Reach out today.
Blow your mind, not your paycheck. SMS out to 30754 and see for yourself why Outsurance was voted Best Car Insurer 2023 by the Star and Pretoria newsreaders. Here's Yusuf.
It just shows that Outsurance is top of the tops when it comes to insurers.
SMS out to 30754 now. That's out to 30754. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and limits apply. Premiums are risk profile dependent and reviewed annually. Client comments do not constitute financial advice.
Tune in to catch the rebirth of Mobango's new season on SABC2. Every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. and experience the drama and excitement with new intriguing characters like Dr. Nonhlanhla Ximba, played by Leleti Khumalo. And of course, your usual faves, Azwindini, Rendani, Teboho, and yes, of course, Khosi. It's a renaissance of new beginnings, love, secrets, and betrayal. Remember, that's every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. on SABC2.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So the South African National Roads Agency, SANRAL, its concessionaire, the N3 toll concession, and the KwaZulu-Natal provincial government are all confirming that the N3 toll route between Johannesburg and Durban is now open and traffic moving following the chaos that ensued on the route over the weekend that left thousands of people trapped in the snow. At least one person has been confirmed to have died, and that person was traveling in a taxi and died, we're told, from hypothermia, with some reports indicating a second death, also possibly due to hypothermia, but at this point we've not been able to confirm that. Joining me now is Tanya Dugra, who is the operations manager at the N3 toll concession. Good morning to you, Tanya, and I've got to thank you for your time. Just confirmation once again, yesterday we saw you saying that the road had been reopened, but there were still rescue and recovery operations around Van Riemen's Pass. Where do we stand as of this hour on a Monday morning?
Well, good morning to Thulasizwe and good morning to all of your listeners. I'm happy to confirm that the N3 toll route is fully reopened to traffic as of last night. All of the vehicles and the road users who had been stranded, particularly between Van Riemen and Montrose, were safely escorted out of the area, and all of the backlog that had been there, about a 30-kilometer long backlog, that had been cleared. Authorities were able to move in and assess and determine that it was safe enough for us to reopen, and we have since done so.
And this includes, Tanya, does it, the vehicles that you were reporting had been abandoned, including small vehicles as well as trucks that you're saying that they were posing a bit of a difficulty for you because the drivers had simply left them and abandoned them?
Yes, well, I mean, obviously, considering the conditions at the time, it was extremely difficult. But fortunately, because of multidisciplinary efforts with a number of the towing operators there, as well as all of the emergency services and other volunteer organizations who assisted with clearing the roadway, dragging those vehicles to the side of the road so that we could get the graders in, clear the snow, make a safe path for vehicles to be escorted. Fortunately, yes, all of those have been removed from the roadway.
Just a question of confirmation, Tanya. We are reporting that one person has been confirmed to have died of hypothermia, and this is the passenger who was in a taxi. Are you, as the N3 toll concession, in any position to confirm whether you've received news of a second person having died along the route?
No, unfortunately, I'm unable to confirm.
Okay, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Let me ask you a question that you faced over the weekend about why it is that you were not able to get to people in time and assist them in time, given that people pay the toll fares, and I think you know the question that I'm asking you. It seemed at the time to be a question that caused a lot of debate about what your role is in relation to disaster preparedness and responsiveness. But I think there was an element that talked to what the promise is on your side, what the brand promise is. Otherwise, that's why you have all of those boards along the freeway to say, if you run into problems, this is the number to call. Were those systems adequate for this particular eventuality, or are those meant for ordinary breakdowns and the likes along the N3 toll route?
I think that we can all agree that this was a very unprecedented event. I'm not going to say that there aren't lessons to be learned from it. I think we can all agree that there are. There are things that we can definitely do to improve. We are listening to all of the feedback we've received from our road users and from other stakeholders, and we will definitely be considering how we can implement that going forward. But we do have a very well-established and well-developed winter contingency plan and a protocol. It falls under the route incident management system. It was implemented. It was activated as soon as we were aware of the conditions, which we've been monitoring since the weather services notified us. But I don't think anybody could have been prepared for an event of the magnitude that we had. I mean, the N3 toll route extends 415 kilometers between Sadara and Heidelberg, and this event covered the largest portion of it, extending pretty much from Lions River in KwaZulu-Natal all the way to Warden in the Free State. And it wasn't isolated and affecting only the N3 toll route. It was affecting all of the areas. This is, as I've mentioned before, a multidisciplinary effort, and it involves emergency services, law enforcement, etc., which are all other public entities as well. And they were, similar to us, being forced to direct their resources to the largest area to respond to emergencies that were happening really quickly. Because as much as we were expecting the weather to come in, we were not expecting that the temperature was going to drop as quickly. We had the largest event of black ice covering all of these surfaces all the time. Unfortunately, none of us could be everywhere at the same time. And I think that has obviously contributed to the issue.
So let's ask about your readiness to deal with incidents such as these ones. Do you, for example, own a snowplow?
We have sufficient, well, I don't say sufficient, we have equipment that will assist us with grading the road surface. We have and we can bring in from other resources, from other contractors, and that's what we do. I'm
asking you a specific question. Do you have a snowplow?
No, we don't have a snowplow.
Why not? When snow falls in those regions, especially Van Rienen's Pass, it's not a new thing. It's not on the same scale, but it does fall.
Because we don't necessarily need a snowplow to clear the snow in the area. We have equipment that we have available to us that can assist with clearing that.
Do you have all-terrain?
We have tried and tested that.
Do you have all-terrain vehicles to enable you to get to travelers needing assistance where there's a gridlock on the highway? Do you have at least those to say, when we need to go slightly on the side of the road, we could maneuver and get to people needing assistance?
Again, we do have access to vehicles, not necessarily of the volume that was required for this event, but we do have access to vehicles.
All right. I've got to thank you for your time, Tanya. Those were questions that we had to put to you because we have to put them to everyone who was involved in responding to the situation that unfolded over the weekend. That is Tanya Dugra, who is the operations manager at the N3 toll concession.
Hey, if I could, I'd fly to Dubai.
Here we go again.
First class, Exeni. Ngithi shwe. Get myself a V12 Beast and a mansion with Instagram-worthy views.
You don't even have Instagram.
Imagine seeing the city skyline from my bedroom, watching MasterChef SA while I have my very own MasterChef in my kitchen. Forget the queues at the cinema. I'd have one in my crib, Joe. I'm talking 7.1 surround sound and a 120-inch 8K TV whilst I'm sipping on some grapes. I'm talking luxury, Ntwana. What do you know about that? Let me school you, bro. Tune into Dubai, Buying the Dream. Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. on S3. And channel your inner luxury. Only on S3. Open up.
S3. And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said, grrr.
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed dance. I saw the maidens handing over reeds to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
Have you recently migrated to the new TV licenses payment website? Make sure your account stays active by registering again or resetting your password. Don't miss out on all the fantastic new features our brand new website offers. Get registered today and stay connected with us. With the new website, get your payments done quickly and hassle-free with a wide range of services. So make sure you register to take advantage of all the great client features. Visit www.tvlic.co.za today. TV licenses. Do it for the things that matter.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's do exactly that. Let's take some of your calls now. Let's start with Mpho, who is in Randfontein. And Mpho, you want to talk about the weather in KwaZulu-Natal. Good morning to you.
Good morning, my brother, and good morning to the listeners of SAFM. I think the issue that I thought you posed to the MEC and the minister, it's a reflection that there's no government coordination in problems like this one. Because they continue to say we need to coordinate better, but because they were pre-warned, I suppose they should have realized that coordination would be necessary. I think my issue is that it's always not good to answer to get the questions every time when there's a disaster. Hey, we need better coordination. Hey, we need a better coordination. We should prepare for that.
Yeah.
Particularly when we are pre-warned.
Yeah. No, I can't quibble with anything you've said there, Paul, because we've had disasters, especially recently. And each time we say there are lessons to be learned and we'll be better prepared, better coordination, and each time we are back here having this kind of a conversation.
Exactly. No, I think I'm sure government must, particularly in areas where they are prone for such problems.
Yeah.
So we need to prepare better.
All right, let me thank you for that, Mpho, out in Randfontein, and stay with the theme and speak to Eunice, who is in Joburg. And Eunice, you also want to talk about disaster management in South Africa. Good morning to you. All right, Eunice, you want to talk to me? Yes, I can now.
Yeah, sorry. We've all been following what happened in the snow. Now, the point is you had the MEC, you had the minister there. I actually want to find out who exactly, for example, supplied the graders there to clear the snow. Because from the reports I've heard, it was farmers that sent in the graders there. Now, I'd like to know whether any municipality sent in graders there. Because when it came to food drop-offs, for example, I know the Gift of the Givers was there and Alim Dar Foundation, amongst others, who were supplying food to all those stranded there. Now, we cannot have a situation here where only NGOs are doing work what government should have did. Yeah. For example, there was an SANDF helicopter that couldn't land, but couldn't that helicopter have done food drop-offs for the people there?
Yeah.
It cannot be that every time, Thulasizwe, we have a disaster that we have to suddenly ask, Imtiaz, where art thou? So in other countries, you have the army that's activated within a very short space of time, whether it's helicopters or personnel or whatever, with carriers or whatever. So these are questions we need to ask, and we cannot simply have this over again, because God forbid, if we have a natural disaster, like what other countries have for a major earthquake or whatever, what happens then?
Yeah. No, I take the point you make fully, Eunice, and I did hear the question you are asking about who supplied the graders. I imagine that it was a combination. I did see the farmers stepping to the fore, making all of us proudly South African in that spirit of pulling together when we face adversity. But the Transport MEC in KwaZulu-Natal, Boniso Duma, did activate some of government's own machinery, and the graders started moving in. But the point you make to say all of these are plans that could have been put in place before the disaster unfolded, such that
and
these
for
were
future
stationed
disasters
along the way. Yeah.
And for anything that happens in the future.
Valid point you make. Eunice,
thanks.
In Joburg, thank you for that. Let's go to Crispin, who is in Durban. And Crispin, you want to talk to me about Shosholoza finance loans, and this has to do with the Union SAMU in Johannesburg and the accusations that it faces that it facilitated the deductions from its members by this company. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and this is happening in Durban, and it's happening on a huge scale. They are definitely breaking the law. Now, who's breaking the law and how the municipality has allowed this to happen is what must be investigated. So I've looked specifically at pay slips of workers in Durban. By law, you cannot deduct more than 25%. 65% and more of workers' basic salary has been taken off at source from the pay slip. So there are quite literally well-paid municipal workers who go home with under 1,000 rand a month because of these deductions. This one friend of mine, he was in a completely depressed state. I said, go to Shosholoza, ask them to give us a copy of the agreement, which is required by law. Give us the statement of account, which is required by law. And give us the percentage interest that they're charging, which is required by law. They refuse to give any of that.
Sure.
They refuse to give anything. All they'll say is they'll print out, if you want to repay us, we'll give you that final statement. No indication at all of how they got to it. I wrote to the National Credit Regulator. It seems no action has been taken. This is appalling that the then city mayor, Kawunda, in response to what I'd initiated, said, oh, well, the workers signed for it, and if they've got a problem, they must go to the wellness center. I mean, this is... So whenever people say, oh, we have wellness programs in companies, why do we need wellness programs in companies when the key problem is the way that workers are being exploited and manipulated and coerced in this way? Sure. It is completely corrupt, and if anyone ever thinks that corruption doesn't hit the poor hardest, here's the case in point.
Crispin, I've got to thank you for sharing your insights and your understandings and your experience of this situation with the Shosholoza finance company that is at the center of these allegations. It does seem to me that the conversation needs to go forward with the authorities such as the National Credit Regulator, especially around the sum of the deductions that are being taken from workers' pay slips from payroll, from source, to the extent to which those are in line or not with regulations. At 8:30, let's check in with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister has conceded that the extreme weather conditions made it difficult for the government to effectively respond to the snowfall crisis in KwaZulu-Natal. ANC Secretary-General Fikile Lula says the late struggle stalwart Pravin Gordhan will be remembered for fighting against those who stole from the poorest of the poor. And Ecuador has started to implement power cuts one day earlier than planned due to a severe drought affecting its hydroelectric plant. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Durban's N2 southbound remains busy this morning. There's a broken down vehicle in the construction zone before you get to Spaghetti Junction. So that run from Inanda Road over Umgeta Road down through Clare Road Bridge stays back up. Crash on the M7 at South Coast Road. Also no traffic lights there either. That's Edwin Swales at South Coast Road, just south of Durban. Might get a little bit slow as you approach that one with a double whammy of incidents. Cape Town Turfall Road at the N7, Jakes Kerville Drive. There's no traffic lights working. Crash on Borchard's Quarry heading south from the N2. Heading from the airport down to the N2. So if you come out of the airport, direction N2 or direction Nyanga, that's slow, just moving around that crash scene. And there's been a collision on the... let me just get this right. It's on the M5 highway, Prince George and Clip Road in Grassy Park. Now, that's a crash. And nearby on Prince George Drive at Joe Marks Boulevard, there's a bit of community protesting over electricity prices and electricity costs. So, again, just a sort of double whammy of incidents to watch out for in that Grassy Park and Retreat area. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning once again. So the Springboks are likely to be singing redemption songs all the way to Mbombela and back?
Yeah. Sounds like a Bob Marley song ringing in my head as we speak.
Redemption song.
Yeah, I think they're sharpening their horns to us and they're ready to charge. Mbobela is like their home turf. So I just have to say that the Argentinians better beware. They are focused now to bounce back in front of that home crowd. Ibn Etzebeth set to become the most capped Springbok. Now, it's a match full of history and high stakes. The All Blacks and Wallabies will kick off earlier, but it's the Springboks who will be aiming to finish strong in this decisive clash against, Argentina. Kickoff at 5 p.m. More action with the national team. Aiden Markram, Tristan Stubbs, guiding South Africa to a consolation 7-wicket victory against Afghanistan. And this is after a much improved bowling and fielding performance, which saw the team dismiss Afghanistan for just 169. It all happened in Sharjah in the United Arab Emirates. South Africa finished on 170 for 3 in 33 overs to concede the series 2-1. Let's hear from Proteas coach Rob Walter.
Obviously, the series result is disappointing, in particular the first two games, where we have exposed some of our depth and fringe players. Ultimately, we can only get better if we are exposed to conditions, and these were tough ones. So hopefully this is just a catalyst to us getting better and the depth getting stronger.
Let's go to soccer action. Manchester City needed a last gasp equaliser from John Stones to salvage a 2-2 draw against Arsenal, keeping them at the top of the Premier League. The intense showdown saw tempers flare as both sides battle for supremacy, with Arsenal reduced to 10 men after Leandro Trossard's controversial sending off. Earlier in the weekend, Liverpool and Aston Villa celebrated victories while Manchester United struggles. It continued. They had a goalless draw against Crystal Palace. Athletics news: South African long-distance runner Glenrose Xaba made a significant stride towards reclaiming the Spa Women's 10-kilometer Grand Prix title by winning the Gqeberha race in 31 minutes and 22 seconds. Coached by Caster Semenya, Xaba finished ahead of Ethiopia's Denia Abaraya, who crossed the line in 31 minutes and 33 seconds, with her Ethiopian compatriot Tadunare, the three-time Grand Prix champion, who was placed third. Now, a top 3 finish in Johannesburg next month would all but secure Glenrose Xaba her title once more. And finally, golf. Billy Horschel eagled the 18th to beat Rory McIlroy in a thrilling playoff finish at the BMW PGA Championship at Wentworth. McIlroy, Horschel and Tristan Lawrence from South Africa all tied at the top of the leaderboard on 20 under, with the latter, Lawrence, knocked out of contention after finding the water during the first run down 18 in the resulting playoff. As they replayed the par 5, McIlroy and Horschel, this time both found the green in 2, but it was the American Horschel and the 2021 champion who clinched a second victory when holing his long putt for eagle. That's how we wrap it up on the morning brief. We'll have more sport around 12:30 on SAFM. I'm Sai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
For that, let's turn to Ndauling Lichela now. And Ndauling, you're looking at energy matters, right? The path to a just energy transition in South Africa is not in a straight line, and in between there are various fuels that are being explored. Sasol and Eskom signing an agreement to explore gas, for example.
That's right. Now, this move follows Sasol's announcement where it said it would cut supply of natural gas from Mozambique under its current contract. Now, this sparked concerns within the industry, as Sasol is a big supplier in the gas space. Following the industry-wide fallout, Sasol then confirmed it was working on extending supply from Mozambique's gas fields to 2028. Now, the recently signed Memorandum of Understanding will address these gas concerns with hopes that it will plug in the gaps from about 2028. Eskom and Sasol are in a partnership with 2 energy companies, and they'll collaborate on exploring the potential for liquefied natural gas supply opportunities in South Africa. This partnership will help Eskom move away from coal and towards cleaner energy sources, reducing the country's carbon footprint. By working together, they aim to create a stable LNG import market, which will also support other industries that rely on gas. Now, the Industrial Gas Users Association of Southern Africa, that represents big players like Nampak and Mondi, have welcomed the move, but the association has cautioned that any decision about a new supply solution would have to be made within the next 9 months to allow sufficient time for any new projects to be developed in time to augment supply by 2028.
From energy to food prices, I see that the news is not so sweet in as far as sugar prices are concerned.
I like what you did there. So bad weather
I'm cheesy. I told you from day one. Live with it, woman.
You're honorable. Now, bad weather conditions in Brazil really hitting crops. The top grower on sugarcane has been dealing with drought and fires. Sao Paulo, which is Brazil's key sugarcane region, saw a record number of fires in August due to drought damaging crops and potentially reducing next season's harvest. This saw raw sugar price futures hit a 16-year high, and this has not filtered through to grocery or consumer prices. However, analysts are concerned as the recent surge puts the sweetener on track for a 6th straight annual gain, keeping pressure on food makers. Now, international research firms like Vilma International has cut their sugar production forecast in Brazil's main sugarcane region due to the extreme weather conditions. Recent fires damaged up to 450,000 hectares of sugarcane, and mills may stop processing cane as early as October due to poor crop yields. Now, this could lead to global sugar shortage in early 2025. And sugar isn't the only soft commodity soaring, as other crops like coffee, we've spoken about this, as well as cocoa, are also getting more expensive. This is causing problems for food companies, especially those selling treats like desserts and drinks.
Yeah, it bodes ill for food prices generally if some of those inputs are on the rise in terms of their prices. With about 20 minutes to go before the opening of the JSE, how are we looking? What kind of a trading day can we look forward to, as well as Asian markets and U.S. futures?
So local markets in particular are poised rather to start the week in the green. There's not much local news today as we have the public holiday tomorrow. So we'll probably start seeing more local news filter through from about Wednesday. Traders will be eyeing producer prices, which will be released on Thursday. Meanwhile, on the currency front, sentiment still upbeat, benefiting from monetary easing. The rand is trading at 17.42 to the dollar. Over in Wall Street, U.S. futures also in the green, recovering from last week's losses. Traders on that end are awaiting PCE numbers, which will be out later this week on Friday. In Asia, markets are on track to close in positive territory, with stocks extending gains, benefiting from a rate reduction from the People's Bank of China.
All right, thank you for that. Ntauleng Lechela has been watching your business, economics and market news throughout the morning here on the Morning Brief.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2. The top 6 contestants tackle a classic bake that's enjoyed all over the world, the humble pie. After learning the art of making pastry from scratch, they each prepare their own family-style pie filled with their favorite flavors. That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Attention all caregivers of children. Are you and your children's vaccinations up to date? Vaccinations can prevent serious diseases and prevent hospital stays. Protect your little ones by getting them vaccinated. Don't wait until it's too late. Talk to your healthcare provider today about getting your child vaccinated against serious childhood diseases. Because health matters. This message is brought to you by Sanofi and the National Department of Health.
Channel
National Heritage Day your way on Afternoon Express on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. only on S3. As Chef Ruben Riffel braais lekker curried lamb skewers, we rock our traditional regalia, and Jules Harding of Good Luck celebrates her daughter Skylar's first Heritage Day, and it's orange malva pudding for dessert. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
Health matters now, and the Gauteng Legislature's Health and Wellness Committee has expressed serious concerns about hospitals in the province failing to comply with occupational health regulations. These issues were highlighted during a legislature sitting on Friday when Chairperson Ezra Letswalo presented the first quarter report. These issues, as I say, highlighted on Friday. While Gauteng is reportedly working to prepare hospitals for the National Health Insurance implementation, the committee questions whether adequate oversight is in place to ensure that meaningful progress is made. Let's bring into this conversation and broaden it then and take it beyond Gauteng and bring in the chairperson of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Health, and that is Dr. Sibongiseni Dlomo. Good morning to you, Doc. I've got to thank you for your time. So the focus was on Gauteng, but it got us wondering. Let's start with Gauteng. We can then broaden it to other provinces. Compliance with occupational health regulations. These are the basic issues that have to do with the functionality and the safety of people that occupy the building, as the phrasing says, the people that work in the building, patients, the ability to exit when there's an emergency. What's the state of compliance in your understanding for hospitals in Gauteng?
No, thank you very much, and thanks for this opportunity. Within 2 weeks, Minister of Health, Dr. Mzwaledi, will be presenting the annual report to Parliament against the budget that has been allocated to the department nationally, then gets distributed to provinces, and also against the annual performance plan that he tabled, hence given the money that was given. So, Honorable Ezra Letswalo, I was talking to him over the weekend, was reporting on just part of what we will get from the minister, as we have rightly indicated, these two issues that he has raised. We would also want to say to you, Sir, Mr. Simelane, we will be going to Northwest in the week's time ourselves, because you are right, you are saying is happening in other provinces. We are doing an oversight in the Northwest province as the National Assembly Portfolio Committee in part of this, because we are looking into these issues generally, hospital failing to comply with occupational health regulations, essential medicines. But you would recall, sir, that just 2 months ago, the presidency convened all critical stakeholders on what they call a second presidential health compact signing, meaning that the department is aware and is really mindful that they are not doing well on 9 pillars. Among others is issues of financial management, quality leadership in facilities. I mean, it's already history with us to say there was an intervention at the Yama Musa Hospital 2 years ago when it was showing, among other things, that there was no strong quality leadership in that hospital. So these issues, we would want to say the executive, supported by HODs, must be the first port of call in terms of doing oversight. Because ourselves as legislators is just a second pillar, and we do go there also to do, among other things, make sure that what monies has been appropriated by departments for actually according to the plans that they have presented, was they do raise that they will actually look after these occupational health challenges. We want to measure against that to say how far have they gone in terms of delivering what they promised to deliver based on the plans that they have produced.
Dr. Dlomo, let me ask you then, as someone who leads one of the oversight bodies that looks into health and someone who previously served in the executive, so you have a bit of that experience on both sides of the spectrum. Aren't you tired of hearing the analysis and diagnosis of what the problems are? You are talking about the 9 pillars that have been identified where weaknesses exist. Are you not at a point where, as someone enforcing that oversight, are actually saying enough now? You've diagnosed the problems, you've been diagnosing the problems, implement the plans you've put in place already?
No, we are actually saying, in fact, those 9 pillars was just not something that we brought up. It's a coalition of all responses. Activists in the country say, but Department of Health, do these things, not only public, but private, do these things. Because if you do, we call these are the enablers. You are actually asking for an NHI, but how do you do that when you are actually reporting issues of essential medicines not being there, financial management not being proper? We also have actually been very grateful that there's been an Office of the Health Standard Compliance that has been set up, the Ombudsman, to say we go to that clinic, we go to that facility, because Mr. Simelane, what happens at Craigdog Clinic today is something that not only must it be good now, it must be maintained right through. So change of leadership must always be focused on protocols and the standards that have been set up. Hence, we are really saying the Office of the Health Standard Compliance must move around the country to really make sure that what has been agreed upon, these 9 pillars, all the non-negotiables are there. But you'll always pick up this, Mrs. Simelane, because down the road there's a hospital that is half empty, but it is private, and we cannot decant any of the patients to that hospital because, of course, these public hospitals are overburdened. And the NHI will, among other things, say at an agreed price, all other patients must move to that facility so that we can be able to manage better and better. So that's among other things what the NHI is calling upon to say, let all both private and public hospitals be available and decant and reduce, but of course not run away from the things that we need to focus on, improve the quality, but also improve the level of attitude of our staff and actually improve financial management and leadership. So those things are all encompassed in this plan, but we need to focus on really focusing to say these enablers of NHI must actually be.
Just very quickly, Dr. Dlomo, let me just check with you, and I know this is a question that was not part of our brief to you, so answer it to the best of your ability. A few weeks ago, the news was abuzz with the videos that Tom London had shared, for example, about his experience at the Helen Joseph Hospital. It caused outrage. Everyone said, let's follow through, let's investigate what happened. I'm wondering to what extent your committee dealt with that and how far you went in following through to ensure that Tom London had the experience he was meant to have, or that that situation is remedied. I'm bringing it up as an example of how we need to follow through on some of these issues as and when they come up.
Yeah, look, Gauteng Department of Health has got a large number of patients, and the big hospitals is a focus. In fact, we were debating as a portfolio committee in the National Assembly whether we should go to Gauteng or Northwest, and we fell on the suggestion of Northwest. We know why we have never visited Northwest since it came out from the administration. You'd recall it was once under the administration by the National Department of Health. So we wanted to go and see progress there since then. But you are correct. Like I raised the issues that we are not very excited about Rihama Musa Hospital outcome. We also, that came out from the Ombudsman. We also are getting continuous challenges regarding Tembisa Hospital. Now, this one of Helen Joseph was something really new. We haven't had a chance to, on our side as a portfolio committee, get into it nationally. So we would not be able to comment broadly. Right. Safe to say that what we found we had happened there is something that we can always rely from Honorable Ezra Letswalo to update us until we ourselves can be able to have an impression about what really happened there.
I've got to thank you. Thank you for indulging me on that question. I was simply asking it, Dr. Dlomo, because to infuse that spirit of beyond the outrage and the trending social media video, does anything get done to remedy some of those situations? That is Dr. Sibongiseni Dlomo, who is the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Health, weighing in on the oversight work that needs to go into ensuring that some of these issues that are raised, including non-compliance with occupational health standards by hospitals, are addressed.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, if you're driving between Joburg and Durban and you've got a little bit of time, you're not in a hurry, you might want to consider the picturesque and beautiful scenery that is Olivier-Souk Pass, CR74, Harry Smith down to Bergville. We saw a lot of traffic moving on that road yesterday. Not too many complaints about the poor condition. It's a road that is a lot better than it used to be in previous years. And the view, the vista, is absolutely stunning with a lot of snow still in that area. The roads are open, the roads are clear, but across the mountains and down through the valleys, absolutely beautiful. You'll see the snow, certainly Montrose and Van Rienes, but you'll also see it if you duck down that R74 route as well. Looking okay on the roads across Gauteng this morning, no major problems. Durban's had a bit of an issue with a breakdown around Spaghetti Junction in the roadworks on the N2 South. That vehicle is still there, so is the traffic, which is piled back as far as Umgeda Road. Cape Town, we're into week 2, sort of just maybe starting week 3 of no traffic, or the traffic lights timing on Marine Drive at Woodbridge Island, and you can sit there for 8 or 9 or 10 minutes, weekends, and even days squeezed between a weekend and a public holiday on a very light Monday morning. You're still queuing reasonably heavy on that run coming into Milnerton, just down by Loxton Road. That's the faulty line. A little bit of traffic over the elevated freeway, looking a bit busy as you arrive into the city centre of Cape Town. The traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Ask me how I know that 50% of car claims are pre-approved instantly. That's because I was one of them.
Yeah, they got my car back on the road with the first repair.
I submitted my claim on the ANG app. I didn't even have to call.
Auto & General is proud to be recognised as South Africa's best car insurer by Forbes and The Star for short-term insurance. Isn't it time you switch to award-winning cover? Visit autogen.co.za. Auto & General, never not there. ANG is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Hey, you know, Ndwana, if I could, I'd fly to Dubai.
Here we go again.
First class, Exeni. Get myself a V12 Beast and a mansion with Instagram-worthy views.
You don't even have Instagram.
Imagine seeing the city skyline from my bedroom, watching MasterChef SA while I have my very own MasterChef in my kitchen. Forget the queues at the cinema. I'd have one in my crib, Joe. I'm talking 7.1 surround sound and a 120-inch 8K TV whilst I'm sipping on some grapes. I'm talking luxury, Ntwana. What do you know about that? Let me school you, bro. Tune into Dubai, Buying the Dream, Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. on S3, and channel your inner luxury. Only on S3. Open up. S3.
And we went on a water safari, and Mom spotted a hippo, and it said,
There is a place where you can see wonder and the wild, with breathtaking scenery and endless landscapes. Enjoy good food and embrace great taste.
And the next day we went to the Reed Dance. I saw the maidens handing over wreaths to the mighty Zulu king, and the Zulu warriors chanting, Baye!
Explore all this and more in the magical Zulu Kingdom.
This message is brought to you by KZN Tourism and Film Authority.
Weeknights on S3 are anything but ordinary. BBC Primetime brings you the best of British television from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Open your mind to Life on Death Row, Thursdays at 9 p.m. and Resistance in a Hostile Environment, a 3-part documentary showcasing turning points which would go on to define race relations in the UK for a generation. Thursdays at 10 p.m. Wind down your weeknights with The Outlaws, Fridays at 9 p.m. and explore the world's most dangerous roads at 10 p.m. Channel your best entertainment with BBC Primetime, only on S3. Open up. S3.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Let's take those calls. Let's speak to Lesego in Cape Town. Good morning, Lesego. I understand you're a doctor and you'd like to talk about the attitude of doctors and nurses in public hospitals. Lesego, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, Tulas. Yes, I just wanted to weigh in because this idea or this narrative that doctors in public sector are just very rude and get paid a lot and don't care about their patients, I think is really unfair. because the conditions that we are subjected to, the things we have to deal with when trying to do our job, I just think nobody would work in those conditions. And I'm not saying that it excuses rudeness and impoliteness. That's completely inexcusable. But I just think it's rich for the health officials and the authorities and the spokespeople to be talking about adjusting doctors' attitudes when it's half the reason why nurses and doctors in the public sector probably aren't smiling all the time is because you are working with sewage coming from the wall. You barely have a decent toilet to sit on. You're completely outnumbered in terms of patient-doctor ratio. You don't have basic medication, basic equipment. You also double as the porter, then you double as the cleaner. It's impossible to work in public sector.
Sure.
So I just think that the public must also understand that we are the face of the healthcare service, but actually we are also just pawns in a bigger game. The health authorities must account for the poor experience of patients in our facilities.
I take that point, Lesego, but you do acknowledge, though, that there are those instances where it's not just about not smiling, not being able to smile because the conditions are so difficult for you, where it goes from that to just taking it out on the patients. We have seen enough of those instances.
No, I agree, and I don't condone that at all. I'm trying to explain that if you have, I've seen patients die or patients get mismanaged because of the system, not because nobody is looking after the patient. I happen to work with children, not because people looking after the child don't care.
Yeah.
So that does something to a person. That you see senseless deaths day in, day out, that actually you still have to go to PA and live with yourself for things that will comfortably beyond your control. So yes, we as people do need to be kind, and we do need to provide a service. We signed an oath, but they also signed an oath. The people in government, they also signed an oath, and we are the face of it. So it's very easy to point at the nurses and the doctors, where actually it's far greater than us. And another thing, if I may, is that the private sector is not necessarily better. There's this misconception that private healthcare is better than state. And I can tell you now that
I've got to move on. I've got to thank you for your time there, Lesego, talking about the attitude of doctors and nurses and healthcare workers, just basically saying that we need to balance the commentary, that while there are those instances where healthcare providers are rude and treat patients badly, there's the other element, of course, that we do need to take into account, that it's not all of them, but also some of the experiences make it difficult to work in those environments. And you heard Lesego there enlisting all of those elements that make it difficult to work. It stems from that conversation, of course, with the portfolio committee chairperson, Dr. Sibongiseni Dlomo, about some of the problems in hospitals, including non-compliance with occupational health regulations. I'm afraid that's where we'll leave it for today. That's how we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. At the top of the hour, the talking point with Kathy Motlatlana coming up shortly, but after the news with Ann Musa. Essential Cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In our top stories, Minister Thabisa speaks on government's response to the snowfall crisis, and Ecuador begins drought-driven power cuts. Good morning. The Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velinkosini Thabisa has conceded that the extreme weather conditions made it difficult for the government to effectively respond to the snowfall crisis in KwaZulu-Natal. Motorists were left stranded for almost 2 days on the N3 road between Escort and Harry Smith due to heavy snowfall. Reports say the death toll has risen to 2 following inclement weather conditions, but provincial authorities have confirmed that 1 person died of hypothermia. Thabisa says they're still struggling to deal with the magnitude of the problem.
People did not expect that the snow can create such a terrible disturbance on our roads. and our systems were ready in terms of how to intervene. Unfortunately, when the snow started to trap people, there was a difficulty even of using the helicopters which were ready, because there was also snow and there was mist. The helicopter from SNDF could not assist, yet they were ready, as we had prepared that in case there would be a need for evacuation, we would do so.
ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula says the late struggle stalwart Pravin Gordhan will be remembered for fighting against those who stole from the poorest of the poor. Gordhan testified at the Zondo Commission into State Capture November 2018 when he was Public Enterprises Minister. Gordhan was cremated on Thursday after a funeral service at the Chief Albert Lutuli International Convention Centre in Durban. He died earlier this month after a battle with cancer. Mbalula was speaking at Gordhan's commemoration that the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation had organized in Johannesburg.
Comrade PG stood as a bulwark against the forces that sought to undermine our movement, steal from the poor and destroy the capacity of the state to improve the lives of our people. State capture represents a painful chapter in our history, driven by vicious thieves, cloaked in the colors of our movement, whose sole objective was to plunder public resources for narrow self-serving interests. Comrade PG, he stood for the truth and fought state capture in all its manifestations.
A man has started to serve a life term after the High Court in California and the Northern Cape sentenced him on Friday. The provincial police spokesperson, Sherelle Alier, says Chris Jan Brandt had been found guilty of the murder of his girlfriend. She says this followed a domestic violence incident which happened in November 2022.
On Friday, the 20th of September 2024, Brandt was sentenced in the California High Court to life imprisonment on charges of murder and defeating the ends of justice. General Otola reiterated that the policing and investigation of domestic violence-related crimes remains a priority for the SAPS in the Northern Cape.
Further afield, Ecuador has started to implement power cuts one day earlier than planned.